Okay, just making sure here. Looks like everything is good. We are on and we're live on Facebook and we are live on Zoom.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Sullivan. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Cohasset School Committee for Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. We are starting at a little bit of a different time to accommodate the high school arts night that we will talk about in just a moment. But before we move forward, I will note that we are in person and virtual. Virtually, you can attend via Zoom. With chat, Facebook is watch and listen only. So if you're on Facebook and you want to chat, switch over to Zoom. With that, I will call the meeting to order and do a roll call. Mr. Cuny.
Aye, present.
Mr. Gar.
Present.
Ms. Leskey.
Present.
Ms. McClellan.
Present.
Mr. Dial. Present. All members are here. I will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. With a new and more impressive flag.
Yes, it is.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so I'm going to be very brief because given that it's high school arts night, we have a couple committee members and one of our invited guests who have students who are presenting art at the arts night. So we're going to go through some agenda items early and quickly so that we can get them to that. But before we do that, and one of our most important things is to welcome our new committee member, Ms. Jennifer Leskey. So thank you very much for your service, and thank you to the town for electing you to your service. So we look forward to another 3-year term for you, and welcome. With that, I will open it up for public comment. I will remind any potential commenters that public comment is for items that are not on the agenda. If you do want to be recognized as someone to comment on an agenda item, please let us know now, but reserve your comment for that agenda item. But right now, I'll see if there's any public comment.
There are no comments at this time.
Excellent. All right, we will close off public comment. And we will quickly move to our invited guests. Our school committee student liaison has a parent conflict and as our students are very busy. So we're going to quickly move to Principal Alexander Sullivan from the Deer Hill School to talk about our school improvement plan. Principal Sullivan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So as a segue into the school improvement plan, something that always informs the decision we make around the construction of the plan are the surveys that we distribute to the community. And so this year, our motto was to send the same survey across all buildings. And so I have those results to share with you as they definitely informed the work we did.
I will share it with you. It was a good segue. You were filibustering so I could get technology in order here. Thank you for doing that.
It's much better than my singing.
And I,
So, oh, perfect, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so what this is a very straightforward slide deck. It's something I shared with staff in my building, reviewed it with the school council at Deer Hill, and all it is just the bar graphs of each question, so you can see the results. As I reminded staff, with that Likert scale, we're super excited about anything 3 and above. And we had some important conversations about the other pieces, but overall, we're really excited with our results. So,
Principal Sullivan, if I could just
Yes.
remind the committee and anybody who's watching, this year we determined we would do a standard survey, and this was with school committee feedback from last year. If you remember, last year we did surveys and they were authentic, which was great. They were done in conjunction with their school council. And I know that Principal Sullivan, when she gets to her school improvement plan, will talk about the makeup of her council, but just know that school councils are so important because they're made up of half constituents who are families, parents, guardians, and then half who are administration and staff members. That's one group. So they balance and they create school improvement plans. They also help with budget decisions, particularly around class sizes. And then one of their other important functions is handbooks. And later on, probably this summer, or June or July, I don't know if we determine a day, but you will see the handbooks, which of course will then be posted and signed off on by families in the community. But we determined we would do a standard community engagement survey across the board. And Principal Sullivan was the first one to show it, so here we go.
Here it is. All right, so again, satisfied with homeschool communication. And again, the lens of this survey, as families are responding, they're thinking across the building. So this might include teachers, myself, any form of communication. And perfect. There's definitely a focus on volunteer opportunities in this survey. We've done some great work this year on a volunteer committee and are moving in that direction. You'll see that reflected in my school improvement plan. This one makes me chuckle because as a high school parent, I did fill it out for the high school and I was a 1. I feel like I contribute to the community and don't feel the need to volunteer. I think this correlates with the idea of different ways that people contribute to their communities, and it may or may not overlap with school. This is an important question. It was, in kind of dissecting this with the school council before and after the administration of the survey, we felt like, wow, this is a really chunky question and maybe could have been split up. But I also think, taken in conjunction, it's also important to kind of look at that whole child approach. Again, I feel really good, in my mind, when I think of folks that take surveys, you often get the happiest and the unhappiest. And so the fact that we're skewing so far above 50% in all of our responses, I think really speaks well to the work we're doing as a school community.
You always look towards the top 2. And then you do have opportunities at the end for them.
Yes, there'll be feedback at the end. Yes, there's open response at the end, and I did summarize that for you. And then, of course, there's certain things that, this is the kind of thing that keeps me up at night. Yes, this is a wonderful result. These are great numbers, but I'm, thinking about who's that kiddo?
Yeah.
And what can I do for them? And this is where the anonymity of a survey like this can be tricky, because I want that conversation, and I'm hoping this conversation is happening somewhere. And that's in a way that's affecting change. Because of course, you never, really there's 7 kiddos there that, that I'm wonder about. And then another conversation our school council had was, would it make sense to implement this survey with the students themselves? Because some of these questions it is a parent perspective. What is their child reporting? Those kinds of things. And that would be an interesting way to look at the data, is to do a side-by-side comparison.
Principal Sullivan, would there be a way technologically to, if someone on this question or a similar question clicked a 1 or a 2, to open up a pop-up or a window saying, hey, if you are having trouble, can you please contact so-and-so and let us know the details? We're interested in understanding what's going on.
That is way out of my skill set. That doesn't mean it's impossible.
They can do that. So one of the things we could do that would be a little less technologically taxing would be just to say, if there's any question you have that you feel needs special attention for your child,
great idea.
Please identify that, if you'd like to, in the response, in the open response, which is anonymous, only I see it, or only the principal will see it. But, I
wouldn't see who sent, they would have to contact me. There's no way for me to know who's responding.
Well, they could put their names.
Oh, if they wanted to.
So,
Yes.
so that the person who doesn't feel their child has a sensible line could say,
Right.
my name is.
And
my
I'd love
child
to
is,
talk
and I'd
about
love to
this.
talk. But I also, this is a good point, good time again to reemphasize that we're a team. We, all of us here, and we're all here to help your child. So please just, if there's anyone you're comfortable with reaching out to, just reach out, because we will figure a way to help you.
If it's some reminder, or maybe it's not a technological pop-up, but maybe it's just next to this question. Maybe the next, not the next question, maybe the next text field could be, if your answer is 1 or 2, we encourage you to reach out to XYZ.
Yeah, that could even just be interspersed throughout the survey.
Yep.
It's a really good
That's
idea.
great feedback. My child is comfortable asking for help from adults in school. Again, the school council was very protective of Deer Hill. We had a very lively conversation. And I was like, no, these are great results. But some of the feedback they had was, this also could speak not so much to a concern with the school, but maybe a reflection of a student's learning style or things like that. And the parent might be thinking, oh, the teacher gives them many opportunities and I wish they'd reach out more. but it's still important information we need to know because we're the adults and so we want to.
Alex, we should probably explain the Likert scale, what it is.
Okay, so 5 is strongly agree, 4 is agree.
Yep.
3 would be neutral, 2 would be somewhat disagree, and 1 would be disagree.
Or is it strongly disagree?
Strongly disagree. Oh, yeah. Disagree, strongly disagree. Yeah. Overall, I feel my child's learning needs
good.
are being met. My child finds the assignments and lessons motivating and engaging. This is definitely one of those questions you'll see reflected in our school improvement plan as along with another question, I believe, that comes up in this survey. Again, you know, I'm pleased with these results. I would love to see more 5s. But I think that speaks well to the different kinds of modalities and things we have in the building. My child's school maintains a school environment that helps students learn. I thought this one made us giggle. It's the only one with no 1s or 2 because it's such respectful children.
Yeah.
But we actually do. So
Do you think this would be the same result if the staff were given the survey?
So I talked about that. So I did present this survey to all, to classroom teachers. I have not yet met with support staff. And they had a chuckle too. But we really do recognize that we do have a very respectful student population. And most importantly, and what I talk about often with students is it's what you do after. So you might have that moment where boop, something pops out of your mouth or you lose your filter, but do you apologize? Do you know, accept responsibility? Are you doing all the things we would want you to do when you make a mistake? And yes, I would say that happens in our building. So I may joke about it, but I actually find this accurate. Again, this is the one where I'm like, ooh, what was that interaction? Or what is driving that? But again, those are great numbers. This was another topic of conversation in school council that we circled back to in the meeting after we talked about this. And just that idea of sometimes I think families, if I were to interpret these results, I would say that families recognize that we have open communication. I think that was reflected in the previous question. But I think sometimes they don't know who the person is. If I want to request something, you know, if I'm worried my child is struggling academically, who's my first go-to? And so it was the council's recommendation that somewhere in our handbook or in some form of communication, we have some kind of a if this, then that. You know, what is, you know, reminding about processes for, you know, what do I do if my child's struggling? Do I go here? You know, again, that hierarchy, if I have that reminder, which I couldn't honestly remember was in our handbook or not, but if you have a problem, just like in sports, first you start with the teacher, then you go to the principal, then maybe you go, you know, like that again, that hierarchy. So I think there's some communication we can do that will help inform. But again, I see some good numbers there.
Yeah, I see some places we can communicate how to communicate
Exactly.
the
Like
idea
here's where
is
you go.
around if you have questions on curriculum, if you have questions.
Or even like the bus, so parents will email
Yeah.
me and say, I don't know if you handle the bus, or, you know, or,
Right.
you know, just lots of different things like that. When to contact a math specialist versus the classroom
Right.
teacher, or when to do it in conjunction. And then also that recognition too, that sometimes when a family emails multiple staff members, you might only hear back from one, but they're having conversations. And so you're not gonna get 5 emails back, you're gonna get that kind of, this is what the team feels. And I think we work hard to create a welcoming environment. This made me happy.
Yep.
This made me very happy. This survey came out the week of the Nashville shooting.
Yeah.
And so for families to be in that space, which unfortunately we're in almost every week, but to feel that we are providing a safe environment for students when that's at the forefront of their minds, that felt very good.
That's good numbers.
I also was really pleased with this question. Again, when you look at kind of at a national level, there's so many conversations, everything from what reading program you're using to, other topics of conversation about curriculum and things like this, I felt that this was a very strong
It is.
response. And there was recent article in the Globe about another district more on the district level, and we far exceeded how they performed on this question. So these are the open-ended questions that families had an opportunity to answer at the end. And so what I did was really, again, for the purpose of developing a school improvement plan, and also just kind of communicating things to staff. I just summarized, themes. And again, I felt things were really positive, and I wanted to note that at the bottom, that these were points, but it wasn't, most of these bullet points were maybe once or twice. And then sometimes they conflict with each other. Okay, this one's important. Let me see. Okay, so yes, this is one that definitely is reflected, and some of the other bullet points in the previous slides also you'll see direct correlation to our school improvement plans, but that opportunities to support and challenge high achieving students. I would say of all the feedback we received in the open response, I probably had a half a dozen parents that was something that was mentioned, and we heard that.
So, so we'll move right into the school improvement plan, and then, obviously we take comments as you go there, if that's okay.
Yep.
All right. Let me share the school improvement plan. Good.
So the members of the school council, myself as principal and co-chair, Karen Johnston, grade 5 teacher representative, Kaylee Schneider, also grade 5 teacher representative. Lauren Wagner was a parent representative and my co-chair. Jen Dial, parent representative. Jessica Catadella, parent representative. And then Lydia St. Ange was our school committee liaison. Dream team.
Yeah, did a great job.
Great team.
And this is standard in all of them.
Yes, this is all our.
We have our mission, our vision, our core values, all in this current strategic plan. Our equity vision statement, which is important. That's been developed in the last few years, couple years. The school council mission of school councils. And then you can see that our school improvement plan goals are aligned to the Cohasset Public Schools strategic plan and are based on current performance levels, data analysis, and feedback. So you're going to see with all these plans that they really do follow that. And they also cite the particular strands we have in our plan. So that's nice too. Why don't you tell about the elements?
The elements are, that's out of Massachusetts general law that just talks about what components you'll find in a school improvement plan. So you'll see data around class size, student teacher ratios, and then overall supportive adults. A schedule plan for reducing class size if necessary. You will not see that in my plan. You'll see that the plan represents opportunities for professional development, ways to enhance parent involvement, school safety, establishment of the school environment, thinking about tolerance and respect, might include extracurricular, means for meeting diverse learning needs, and then here's the catch-all, any further subject the principal in consultation with the school council shall consider appropriate. So those are the buckets we're considering in when we're developing goals. This is our school data. I did a side-by-side. Obviously the 2023-24 is projected. So you'll see that there's growth in 3rd grade and an overall growth in our school of not quite 20 students. And I would say that's probably a little low. I'm doing a tour in the next week of a couple students. A lot of, we have a decent bump of 3rd graders coming from some local private schools this year. I'm already up to, I think, 5 or 6 new enrollees in 3rd grade. I think overall, we've already registered maybe 8 or 9 new families, grades 3 through 5. Class sizes are pretty consistent and in a great place. And then below that is when you look at the student to teacher ratio, when you're really kind of factoring in, again, all of that support staff and things. And again, pretty consistent with the prior year.
So what are your thoughts on for Deer Hill, the optimal class size and student teacher ratio?
I think my sweet spot is between 20 to 22 students. I come from California. I taught a K-1 with 28 students and myself. So I've had multi-age classes where I had more kindergartners than class sizes here. Plus I had my first graders. So I think we are very, very fortunate. I feel like when you start to dip into like the 15, 16 range, which every once in a while happens, you don't have enough energy in the room. And so I feel like that 20 to 22 range is a really nice place to live. And so I'm really proud of the fact that that is where we are.
I think these are pretty
Beautiful.
ideal. And actually, from where we were previously, much better.
Yeah.
Much better capacity. You really, that's something to be proud of.
I feel very proud of that. I think my first year I had a 5th grade class with 25, and those are big bodies in classrooms that aren't necessarily set up for that size.
Particularly after coming off of COVID.
Yes,
The learning slide that has impacted kids. It's nice that this committee in particular has made a commitment to keep these numbers low. And we're feeling that at both Deer Hill and Osgood. It's going to help our kids.
absolutely. I think we're in a great place. So thank you.
MCAS data. Yeah.
Yep. So I know that Dr. Scollins has done extensive presentations on that.
Good.
And here we go. So I have 3 goals. Also in developing goals, you're looking for a sense of continuity to prior plans. And so that was something the school council considered in making sure that it shouldn't, especially when you're looking at a new plan every year, a lot of initiatives take, time. And so while each goal is new, it has footprints in the goal before it in previous years. And then sometimes the action plan items overlap. So our first goal is during the 2023-24 school year, Deer Hill School will develop, implement, and communicate a minimum of 4 practices promoting differentiated instruction that support and challenge all students. And the words I want to draw your attention to are differentiated and challenge. So we're really broadening our spectrum. I know we've been kind of on that notion of learning slide and how do we catch up. And I think we're doing a great job with that and want to continue that work and expand it. But we also want to make sure that we're recognizing that all students, we want to accelerate their growth and their ability to succeed. And so that's really what is at the heart of this goal. Some key action plans that we are, hoping to be able to initiate. Continuing to work with our data collection in order to identify the individual needs of students and better target that instruction. I'm really excited about our new position with our Director of Data, Curriculum, and Evaluation. I think that's going to be a key partner in this. And we've already done some great things, but we already are talking about next year. Dr. Scollins, we had a meeting earlier this week where, we're already thinking about some impressive improvements to that. Ongoing professional development to teachers regarding new curriculum, instructional practices, and assessment resources. Those are 3 buckets that, really work together to inform instruction and then also allows us those opportunities. I'm very proud of the curriculum we have in place at Deer Hill. I think it is engaging, and I also think it is rigorous. I think it provides the appropriate level of challenge in a very authentic way that is student-centered. And in this age group, I feel it's important too that students are learning to take that initiative in their learning too. And a lot of times those kids that are seeking challenges are the ones that are ready for challenge. Provide opportunities for families to build their understanding of differentiated instruction through new and existing standards-based curriculum. We are always wanting to make sure families are familiar with the curriculum, have ways to access this, know where to get resources to better understand it so they can support at home. Something we put in place this year that we want to expand on is, for example, is our 4th grade, and actually 3rd grade is now going to do it because they saw how successful it was in 4th grade, opportunities for families to come in and learn some of the math workplaces. So that's a great entry point for families to help their students at home and gain a better understanding of what we're doing in school.
And that's something you'll see at both elementary schools. And you've seen it in various ways at both, through presentations and family opportunities to delve into curriculum.
And then again, at the core of our how we're identifying students and their needs is our MTSS model. And as I know, Barbara Srwanka has explained, all students are part of the MTSS process. Everyone is in tier one, and then we're stratifying it from there and recognizing where we go and who needs what, and putting eyes on students and identifying next steps. Goal number 2. During the 2023-24 school year, Deer Hill will develop and implement a minimum of 4 practices that foster family and community engagement with an emphasis on academic practices and student achievement. So this is an example of a goal that's that has its initial kind of germination in last year's goal. It's directly tied to our school in our district strategic plan, where we've really prioritized as a district family and community engagement. But the school council and the feedback from the survey and conversations we've had in leadership led us in this specific direction around academic practices and student achievement. And so with that, we're looking to develop and implement a program to use parent volunteers, building-wide and targeted instructional areas. That is an action plan item that was in my school improvement plan last year. And it's something that we are just continuing that work. Like I said, there was a volunteer committee this year district-wide, and we're working as part of that. I'm on that committee, and we'll just continue to build that capacity. Produced a new, this is one that was a direct bullet point on the slide deck. I thought it was great feedback, whoever the parent is out there that put this in. Produced a newsletter or similar communication tool to share curriculum objectives and learning in specialist classes. So I want to give a shout out to our health teacher, Patty Hamlin. She does a newsletter every trimester, and I think she does a beautiful job of articulating what's happening in health class, and families were very receptive to that. And the direct feedback was that they would like to see that across other specialists. And that was, so that's something I will, that'll be part of our conversations with the specialists. And then this is a perfect example about how you go from a strategic plan to a school improvement plan to my goals to individual teacher goals, because I could see this being a part of my development of goals with my specialist staff. So I'm excited about that. And then they will have some voice in obviously in what that looks like. Organize one or more family events that highlight ways to support students at home across all curricular areas. So again, building off of the math workplaces, what are some other ways? We did our 2 reading specialists, Jenna Ellis and Sarah McDonald, did a great job with a literacy night. How can we, expand on that? And develop and implement a platform to recognize students who have demonstrated excellence in academic and or social achievements. So this is how are we acknowledging students? This year, for the second half of the year, we had a gotcha ticket program that really targeted specific behaviors each month. We started with something very concrete. What do you look like in the hallway? We've since expanded. Our focus this month is on inclusivity. We've done things on growth mindset, and then students can receive a gotcha ticket if they're caught exhibiting the targeted behavior. We want to take it next level. We want some student voice in how we look at this kind of a thing, and we want to make sure that it's meaningful and not just everyone gets a trophy. So what are some ways we can do that? So the school council definitely had some ideas about that. When staff definitely has some ideas. So we're going to do some thinking around that. Well, number 3 is my favorite because I get to always have a favorite child. Or not.
Not supposed to.
Sorry. Changes in the moment. During the 2023-24 school year, Deer Hill School will develop and implement a minimum of 4 practices that promote positive peer relationships and enhance student voice in order to create an inclusive, socially aware, and culturally responsive school community. So this goal really began from last year's family survey, where it became evident that we had been very successful with ensuring that every student felt connected to adults in the building, but they weren't necessarily feeling as connected to their peers. And again, if you take this back, over a year ago, that does have some COVID ripple effects. And I think we've made some headway there, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to really develop those peer relationships. The first action plan item for that comes from a visit I made to Norwell schools, so shout out to them, established monthly morning meeting cohorts with a shared focus led by all staff and composed of students across all grade levels. So at one of at the Cole School in Norwell, they have what's called connections, and students are sorted into groups across their K-5, so into mixed grade level groups, and every adult in the building 2 Mondays a month takes a small group. They have a shared curriculum that they use. It takes the place of the classroom morning meeting. And they typically read a book and then have some essential questions that they work through together. And it just creates, and then the next year they stay in the group, and then the older kids leave the school and a new group joins. So the other kids are still together. So you've got 3 years with the same group, with the same teacher or staff member. And then this school-wide shared experience. And the principal there was so kind. Those of us that toured the school, she sent us a Google Drive with 11 years of here are my topics. Here are the SEL topics. One year we did science. Here are all the books we use. They partnered with their PSO each year to purchase the books. And so then you're also creating this shared library across the building where it's like a one book, one school multiple times, and so really excited about that. Staff is really excited about that. So we're going to put that in place. To kind of complement that, establish a monthly Friday flag all school assembly that highlights topics that foster a positive school community and showcase student voice. So we dabbled in this year. I want to make it a counterpoint. I think I said 2 Mondays a month for the connections. 1 Monday a month, 1 Friday a month is how it'll actually go. So the Friday flags, that student voice piece is what are ways the 5th graders, for example, could get involved in setting the program for our Friday flags. Could they be leading the flag salute, all the kind of things that I do? What are ways to engage students in the actual process, the development of the plan, and then making sure that we're, as we have done to some degree this year, targeting topics that are relevant to the school community and support those peer relationships. Develop and implement opportunities for students to serve as peer models for students within and outside their grade levels, to also include the Osgood, Cohasset Middle School, and Cohasset High School communities. There's a lot of interest in expanding some of the cross grade level work that we do with Osgood. It's been really exciting in the last couple of years to have some buddy work happening between 1st grade and 5th grade students and things like that. We have, the staff, it has grown closer and knows each other and are looking for some of those opportunities. So originally I wrote that goal with just Osgood in mind, but really, some of the things that we've done with Cohasset High School already and what I'd like to expand in the Cohasset Middle School also fall in that bucket as a result of a request from the AP physics teacher at the high school. Deer Hill students wrote letters to the AP students in advance of their test, and it just really got so big. It was an amazing thing.
Featured that, and she obviously, Principal Sullivan featured in a newsletter, but it was also too. So nice.
It was so, and the teachers really ran with it. I didn't know if they had the bandwidth, but Mr. Sears gave his class list, and so every teacher could oh, I had that student, and it just really motivated them to write these amazing letters that became lessons in how to address an envelope, how to paragraph, all those great things. And now the AP students are going to come and visit us. And so I've already spoken with Principal Scott and Assistant Principal Noyes, and now next year we're planning an adopt an AP class program. And so we're hoping to match every classroom with an AP class and have some kind of, what a great role model. You've got these kiddos that are in high school and they're achieving, and it gives me all the feels. So, so that's why I was like, I got to go back and add in CHS and can't leave out CMS. And so we've got plans. So great for those peer relationships. And then that last bucket is establish a student advisory council who will work with the principal to address concerns that arise in the building, as well as to generate ideas for a more positive and inclusive school community. Different from a student council, but really more similar to my principal's advisory council that I have with staff members, where we're problem solvers.
What I have.
Right, exactly what you have, but on our model, Right now I do it very impromptu, I kind of man on the street, like I'll grab kids in the hallway and say, we're having this problem with the bathroom, like, what do you think? What do we need to do? Do you think we can go back to 2 kids going in there at a time or whatever? But really more formalizing that and again, engaging that student voice. That's it.
That's it. Great. Thank you, Principal Sullivan. I will open up for committee comments based on feedback from last meeting. I'll start with Mr. Carr.
This is great. Just a general question about respondents, 111 responses. Is that a good number? Are we happy with that? Pretty good?
It's a statistically
Yeah.
relevant number.
It is.
It's, it's not,
So we didn't do a count of how many, you can only answer once and you might
Yes.
have multiple families.
Right, right.
So if we have 304 students in our
Yeah.
school
Okay,
and you figure we have, quite a few with siblings, I'm pretty happy.
okay.
I am
that's
pretty
great.
happy.
Yeah, that's.
I thought, I was,
I think it's.
I gave reminders.
It's enough to give you,
Yeah,
Yeah, and lovely that slide about school safety. Very happy to see that.
Right.
Really
That's
happy to see
strong.
that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Kearney.
Yes, I'm so impressed that this is well presented. I love surveys. I think that really kind of digs into where we're going, and to get 111 responses, I think that's fabulous. The thing that I kind of would like to say is sort of like with more of the like food services, what can we do? We're working as a committee to incorporate it into the curriculum to.
yeah, I was on that email chain. I don't know if you were on the actual email chain, but Marilyn had suggested some
Yeah.
ideas and I
talked about
responded to that.
We're gonna try to work that backwards,
Right.
from more of a, kitchen to
Right, because I shared the standards for social studies and we don't
not.
we
as
don't
much.
go international at Deer Hill in our
Yeah,
social
so-
studies, so we talked about how to reverse that. You make a great point, and something I want to stress about, I could have 100 goals, and so please don't think that because something's not represented, that it's not important. We have a great partnership with Holly Hill. We're harvesting our salad
Oh, yeah.
at the end of the
We're
year.
trying to stay really laser focused on. sort of
Composting.
The big rocks here that
Yeah.
tie into the strategic
But
plan.
yes, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. And I love the newsletter. I think that's
And
great.
one of the things I'm working with Dee Riley, a parent liaison, and one of the examples of that kind of peer leadership would be having, like we talked about, our composting and our recycling and all those pieces, and having, 5th graders come to 4th and 3rd grade lunch, or, 4th graders go to 3rd, and, that kind of thing. So some examples of that. Now, it's not food, it's more waste, but,
I think that's great. Also too, is
Great.
like, I think the newsletter again, like to be able to get focus on the community so that you get the parents involved in exactly what you're doing there with the Holly and let them know. I think that's what the survey does. And Mr. Lance, I love your idea about like answering the question with the survey.
Me too.
Because like you said, you do send that out there and you just like wish you could.
yes.
Because if you hear a kid hurt and now you could respond
Right.
back and say, hey, if you really want that.
Mhm. And sometimes it's like a subtle piece of misinformation that would be like a 10-second phone call to
Right.
say, yes, actually, we do X, Y, and Z, or we don't, and don't worry about it, So, yeah,
Yeah, this is awesome.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney. Ms. Leskey.
Fabulous. I'm a Deer Hill parent, so, and I will be for another year. So I'm
Excellent.
happy about all of the things that are going on. I think particularly what resonated for me was the eyes on students and sort of broadening that sort of focus from just students who need to support, but those students who also need enrichment, and really giving each child what they need. And I think that that's a really, getting to that point where there are kids who are ready for that acceleration of growth. I'm glad that we're sort of at that point.
Yes, isn't that
To
exciting?
be sort of recommitting to that
Right.
focus. So I think that's wonderful. And then I'm a huge fan of morning meetings, and always have been. I was wondering if you consider doing some public speaking and incorporating public speaking. I know that Veterans Day opportunity to read an essay is a very powerful one for kids, and
Right.
your Flag Fridays sound like a great opportunity to open that to
Exactly.
more
I
children.
wanted to pass the
Um,
torch. They hear me, and something we used to do pre-COVID was 5th graders doing morning announcements. Like, can we bring, just the PA ones? And so can we bring that? I mean, sometimes I kind of need the mic, but other times I think there's definitely more opportunity to bring some of that back. And we sprinkle it in, but, as things come up, students will report out. But yeah, no, I
Or
think you're
connecting
right.
to their written reflections and giving the
Exactly.
opportunity
And
to-
the Veterans Day does still happen. It just happens at the ceremony, the town ceremony.
Right, and I'm thinking it's one child from every class
Right,
versus.
so we could,
sort of
yes,
broadening that.
exactly. I don't know, when I was in school, we would like get up at the whole class and like recite poems and things at assemblies. And so some of that,
Great experience. Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Vice Chair McCollum.
Um, Thank you for the presentation, Principal Sullivan. My one question is whether you've given any thought to the composition of and selection for the student advisory committee.
Hmm.
Have you given any thought to who's going to be on it?
Mhm.
From a student perspective, I'm sorry,
Right, right.
and how you're going to select those students.
So I could see doing a process similar to the year when we had the years when we've had Deer Hill representation on Dr. Sullivan's committee. I believe they had to do a Google form and then they had an interview process. And I would see maybe doing it along a trimester line so that we're able to rotate students through. I'll be honest with you, this is on the fly. But I think that those are some ways to go about that, to kind of expand that voice, and then again, have that kind of representation model where just like our principals advisory council for the staff, students kind of know who their people are and can share that feedback with them and then have them report it out.
And then composition. Give me-
Oh, so across all 3 grade levels, I think for sure. Yeah, I don't know that it would be in representation from every classroom. There might be opportunity, it might have like this kind of an effect where there might be a core group and then opportunities. To think about that. I might
Okay.
need to solicit some 5th grade input on that.
So more than one from each grade, but you just don't know
Yes.
how many yet.
Right. And then
Do
I can
you-
see it rotating so that
Do you think there would be equal representation for each grade, or do you think there could be more the older they got?
I haven't gotten that granular. I don't know. What do you have ideas?
I don't, not for that.
I'm open to ideas.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah. There's
don't-
pros and cons.
Right, and then with the selection, remind me, is that the student has to take the initiative, right, to fill out the Google form, like it's offered to everyone, but so the thing that I like to see that I think sometimes you've done with the student superintendent's advisory council is, and the middle school did this to a degree with the student council. It's a really important opportunity for kids, I think, to be exposed to a situation where they have like a voice and some agency in their environment.
Mhm.
That said, especially like the 3rd graders, I mean, at any grade, frankly, in Deer Hill, I mean, they're still young kids, right?
Right.
So I think that you could help a child find a voice earlier on in their life. Because you know so much about the kids and so do the teachers, there might be a kid that isn't standing up and saying, oh, I want to do that maybe you identify as someone that like might benefit from it. So I don't necessarily have a solution, but that is a concern I have that I'd like you to incorporate into this so that those kids that might go unheard, but have really valuable input, and
Right.
it could really,
No, I
it could
agree.
really sort of bring them out of their shell if they were given that sort of agency.
Right.
I would like to see something where we are,
So
giving them
what
a
do you
chance.
think about like a student component and then maybe a staff recommendation component? So it's not just my eyes, but then there's that opportunity for staff, because I agree with you 100%. I don't ever want to see that same group, that same voice coming at me. So
Because
I
those are
hear
the
you.
extroverts, right? The extroverts are gonna be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
that's
on this.
cool,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know?
future
But there's
politician.
that
Yeah.
introverted, super intelligent, insightful person that,
Yeah,
Michelle Mosier might know about in her
Exactly.
class, that she's like, oh, this person would
It's
be
an
really
opportunity
good.
to
They'll
shine.
never volunteer, but if you get them in there, I think it'll be
Mhm.
really, really moving for them.
yeah,
So just consider that.
I like that. I
You
think
know.
that's really, yeah, I think that's great. And something we do with staff too. Sometimes I know who my strong voices are and I know who I would love to hear from. And if I
Same
have
goes for
things to
adults for
say.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
And if I know Principal Sullivan well, and I think I do now, that you're going to use your staff to give you some ideas about how to.
Yeah.
So it'll be a lot of thought partners and very collaborative and, you know, school committee is a great thought partner too.
Yeah,
So it's a-
yeah, I
think that'll be
appreciate
well
that.
done,
That's,
But it's just a thought.
I know, I think that's important. I like that.
Thank you, Vice
Thank
Chair.
you.
Rowan. I have a couple of things. One is incredibly picky, and I'll get to that one at the end. One of them is on the feedback, and you mentioned one you got half a dozen times, was opportunities for higher achieving students. That's one that resonates with me because I hear that from the community from time to time as a request, as they feel like, hey, we need more. And when I have the conversation that's steered towards, I'm considering other educational venues for my child, it often is the response to that. And I know that's in here somewhere, but it didn't jump out at me. So can you point to where in your plan you're addressing that parental concern?
It's goal number 2, I believe. No, goal number 1.
What?
Will develop, implement, and communicate a minimum of 4 practices promoting differentiated instruction. So that means you're targeting your instruction to the different needs of your students. It's support and challenge all students.
Okay, and then on the action plan, is that the
That would be-
develop and identify individual needs of students and better target instruction. That first
Yep.
bullet?
Yep, that's so, you know, the starting point for this is looking at your data, knowing your students. So that data collection, that analysis, the professional development, when the teachers are, you know, familiar with the curriculum, our curriculum itself, I think provides the forum for differentiation. So the better equipped teachers are to implement it, the better able they are to do that. And then I do feel that some of this is a PR piece, and I think that we do differentiate in our
I do
curriculum. I
too.
think we do challenge students, and I think that that's our work to communicate better how we're doing that to families. And I think that, to be frank, it's not a challenge packet. It's not, you know, the natural course of our, it's not more work, it's depth and breadth and complexity. And
It's a nice entrance place for Brock, who's the.
exactly. And so I think that we can do a better job of how our curriculum is so different from when I went to school, where we all turned to page 65 and we did the page of math problems, or a group of kids did the page of math problems and got pulled aside to learn base 3 or something. And so I think that it's more subtle, but I think more authentic and more successful now.
So that's great context, because that also helps you understand a little bit better the 3, which is provide options for parents to build their understanding of differentiated instruction. So this is all, I knew it was in there. I just wanted to,
Thank you.
Another point, which I think and maybe falls into this point number 3 on goal 1. One of the things that would be helpful, I think, for parents is to see where our curriculum and how and what we're doing in the schools and how it aligns with goals and where people should be over time. I know we've talked about that recently as well, but I know that's something that people have raised. So and that seems to fit
The
within
scope and sequence.
so people can see, okay, you know, by this time of the year in grade 5, we would expect them to be at this point in American history or at this point in the math lesson. See, so people can see kind of where the process is going. That might be something that's worth considering. The Picayune point, I know you were ready for it.
I know, I kind of wanted
So-
it out of the way first.
Yeah, so and I'm almost embarrassed to do it because, but as I can't because this is my career. On page 7, on the goal number 2, you've got responsible parties
Mhm.
and the PSO and the district volunteer committee, and I think the PAC. Who's the PAC?
Oh, the PAC, that's my principal's advisory
Okay,
council.
so
So that's what I was mentioning.
So that one's fine,
Okay.
but I only can't do it, but I have to. But the PSO and the district volunteer can't really be a responsible party because they're not like they're third parties. Can't
Mm.
tell them what to do. So they're definitely in resources needed and collaborative point, but you can't give them responsibility.
So the volunteer committee is made up of Dr. Scollins, myself, Principal
Okay,
Farrell,
then they
Principal
get a sense.
Scott.
So now I'm just defending the PSO.
I don't know, okay.
So it's a Picayune point.
Right.
I'm never gonna mention.
No,
it
but
again.
it's a good
Um,
point because we can't rely on outside. I mean,
Right, so you can't delegate. to-
I wish it, instead of it saying responsible parties, I almost wish it said like collaborating parties
Yeah.
or something.
Well, you
like
have that there with resources needed.
Yeah,
So
but we
you
are
have the PSO.
Okay.
The idea of responsible parties is we are trying to create accountability.
Right,
Got
yeah,
it.
delegation. So I
Okay.
just review
No,
all
that's
these things.
actually
So-
not anything, that's a fair point. And I might have the PSO and other goals, so.
Yeah.
We can actually make that correction. If we, as we vote on it, you can vote on it with that correction.
So
Absolutely.
I did want to go to that. And this may be my fault. We didn't mark on here that we're going to vote for these at this meeting. Do we need to vote for them at this meeting?
Well, you can do it any way you want. Remember, next meeting we have, you don't, so the answer is no, you don't need to.
Okay. Because my preference would be, especially because I know we have some people with family members who want to and need to go see the thing. So my preference would be to hold the votes for next meeting. We'll just vote on them. And then that way our
That makes
committee
sense.
members can also look at the, review the Ms. Farrell's presentation.
Yep.
Since they'll be absent for that.
And you'll be able to vote on all
And
four.
we'll vote on all four at once.
That makes
Yeah,
complete sense.
that'd be great.
And I'll update that and send a new copy out.
So Principal Sullivan, unless there's anything else, Principal Sullivan, thank you very much for your presentation. This was
Thank you.
really, really helpful. Thank you for
Thank you
working
very
with
much.
schools and enjoy the arts night.
Thank you, I'm
Good job,
excited.
Mr. Sullivan.
And Mr. Carr, Mr. Kearney, I know you have family members presenting
Yes,
there.
we'll be back shortly.
If you'd like to be excused for this next moment, then go celebrate your children because this is what this is about.
Thank you so much.
Phoebe's stuff is really impressive. by the
Oh,
way.
do you see what movies she's into these days?
Thank you.
Really
I'll send you the copy.
Sorry.
So with that, we'll invite my favorite Osgood principal.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Ms. Farrell, welcome.
Thank you. Get a water before Mr. McClellan has to grab me one. Joke.
You live over, he drinks them all, normally he's three in, but. So thank you. So we've got you for the Joseph Osgood School Improvement Plan.
Welcome, Principal Farrell.
Thank
And for the record, I will note that Mr. Carr and Mr. Kearney did take a temporary leave. We still maintain a quorum with 3 out of the 5 members, so we are still an official committee.
Yes.
With that,
And with no votes happening.
Thank you for having me this evening. Very excited to present the Osgood, as I always am. Little taken back by Principal Sullivan's presentation, so here we go. We'll do this Osgood style. So as Principal Sullivan had said, we had our district survey that was the same across the board. I just want to give a little introduction. The survey was sent out to K-12, K-2 families, not pre-K, which in my goals, you'll see a little later that will change, in April of 2023. The survey window was open for 2 weeks. We had 108 students, pretty comparable to what Deer Hill had,
Very similar.
which, and again, you might have had a family that had a first grade student and a kindergarten student, but I averaged about 31 families responded to the survey. That was out of 347 families, which are currently at Osgood. The survey responses were 1 through 5, 1 strongly agreed to 5 strongly disagree.
Other way around. 1 strongly disagreed, 5 strongly agreed.
1 strongly disagreed, 5 to strongly agree. Yes.
You've got to read it correctly. Yeah.
And I wish we had, you, she went first. Yeah, that's perfect. Good.
Family engagement. One of the things I'd like to start by saying is, obviously, all our questions are going to be the same as what Principal Sullivan had talked about. But for me personally, and this, I bring this back to my own personal life, I would rather if you either dislike me very much or you like me very much. I don't want to be in the middle because that means you don't think about me
It's a
very
great
much.
point. Why do we do that? I was gonna ask that at the end of this. It's a great point. Why don't we force someone to take a position? Like, what does the neutral mean?
There's survey science on that.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just, it's a.
So
it's a-
for me, I'm going to attack the middle personally. But just my purpose is you either like me, and if you like me, that's great. If you dislike me, that's great too. That means at least I've gotten under your skin.
But you're still looking at the, I mean,
Right.
I break it down. I go look at the column, the 2 columns that are the highest.
So, and
It's what means something to me, just quick.
that's what I
Yeah,
did.
but where
was-
would all those people have gone if it wasn't, they didn't have that abstention sort of option? That's the thing. And I know what you're saying, Lance, because we talked
There
about
was
this before.
5-point Likert scale.
well, you can add it. So what you're capturing is, so I mean, when people
Sorry.
come,
Yeah.
so when
okay.
consultants have come and talked to
You
us
brought it
about
up.
surveys, what they tell you to do is lump the 4s and 5s together because
Mhm.
people are hard graders and easy graders, and lump the 1s and 2s together. The 3s, I don't want to say you ignore them. I like your idea of attacking the middle, but there are people who legitimately have like, I'm on the fence. And, that you might skew your 1s and 5s if you force them onto one category. So like, I don't really care, but I guess I have to go negative. And you skew the categories. It's a way you can do that. The other tool you can have is have an NA or not enough information or not applicable. And then that kind of skews out some of those people. But there are legitimate people who just are like, yeah, no, I'm okay with family engagement. Like I'm good. It's not great. It's not bad, but I'm generally okay. And those people are the ones you don't really have to worry about. Like if you were selling a widget, and you get 3s. They're not going to be advocates for your widget, but they're not going to not buy it again either. So,
All right, I just like people to take the vision on
I
that.
know you do.
Well, I apologize for bringing it up, but it is something it's on my mind quite a
It's on
bit.
my mind too.
And when I say I like to target, so as I looked with the committee, the council through the survey, 3 to me means we haven't swayed you either way. So maybe this is my opportunity to lead everyone to sway those 3s. So that's the way I looked at it. And speaking to the numbers, all I did on my little scratch piece of paper here was I combined 4 and 5s. So family engagement, I'm satisfied with volunteer opportunities. 4 and 5 came out to be 65.8%. So 65%.
I also want to note that, remember, Osgood is the first experience for families coming in. So there's that level of not knowing exactly what to expect, having preconceived notions about what to expect, could be, so and really a lot of work goes into, I mean, it's their babies. That's an important time. I mean, you really want to comfort them and help them. So there's a lot of passion in some of these answers, which a neutral to me could be actually very positive. They just don't really know because it's their first experience, and they just, or, a neutral could be, oh, I think it could be better, but I'm not unhappy. But later on, they'll realize it was, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, that it was actually a good experience. So I don't think neutrals are bad. I think neutrals really tell you where people are. I don't judge them one way or another, bad or good. To me, I look at where the predominance of where's your highest 2
Right.
columns.
I want to get those. I think the survey results came out great. They were
They
right where I expected them to be. I just like to always push the envelope and make them go a little bit more on the other end.
Yeah.
I'm interested in volunteering for school activities. We do have an awful lot of volunteers at the Osgood. Our doors are constantly welcoming volunteers to come in. And volunteers also means not just this individual families, but their extended families. We have grandparents coming in, we have aunts and uncles. So that piece, I think people are quite happy with. The school fit. I feel the school fit is really important to us as a staff. I feel my child's school is preparing my child well academically and socially for the next academic year. And that goes right back to what Dr. Sullivan had said, where we have the opportunity to be the welcoming committee for the district. When they come into the Osgood, we are the first opportunity they have to meet the school committee, the central administration, teachers. So that area is really important to me. I feel my child has a sense of belonging within their school. Obviously, that is something that's very important. I thought the numbers were quite telling and very positive, that the parents do feel that their children feel as if they belong. My child is comfortable asking for help from adults in the school. Developmentally, I like to see that in kindergarten, they're starting to learn how to do that. I mean, as you all know, when children are 3 and 4 years old, what do we tell them? Don't ask strangers, don't go to strangers. And then we put them into schools and we say, okay,
We
now
convince them
ask.
that these are not strangers.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a learning curve for children. It's a learning curve for the parents, just to realize that we are trusted adults and to teach your child what a trusted adult is. Overall, I feel my child's learning needs are being met. I thought those was very telling, that people do feel as if the Osgood are meeting the needs of the students. Learning behaviors. My child finds the assignments and the lessons motivating and engaging, and Mr. Dial, this goes right back to some of the responses that I was getting back individually, where people want their children to be more challenged. And challenge comes in different lenses for early childhood, because sometimes a student may have mastered some of the skills in reading and or math, but they haven't mastered or yet grown widely in their social emotional skills. They can definitely read. Maybe a kindergarten student can absolutely read a second grade book, but are they able to comprehend? Are they able to retell the story back? Are they able to give information about the details? So the skill that they're able to really do well, we need to develop the other skills that go along with it. School climate. My child's school maintains a school environment that helps students learn. I thought that was pretty reflective, and I do feel that's what we see when students are in the building. Students at my child's school show respect for the staff. I probably have said this in the last almost 8 years, every single school committee meeting, that I've never met more polite children in my entire life. If you're ever feeling badly about yourself, you walk through the hallways of Osgood, and they will tell you they like your earrings, they like your
Yeah,
shoes,
no,
they like your hair.
Families that go to such should feel
Very
really proud.
polite.
I mean, the kids are.
And I'm just always amazed at even the smallest students that we have in second graders, right before they're going out the door, they still maintain the respect. I think that's pretty important. Staff at my child's school shows respect for the students. That to me is extremely important,
Certainly does.
because if the students aren't feeling respected, how do you in turn expect them to respect others? Engagement.
Sorry,
Oh, that's okay.
that was an important question.
I'm confident about how to best communicate with my child's school. Last year, it was one of the areas, communication from the principal's office was something that we needed to work on, based on the results. And we worked on that this year. We kind of skewed a little bit. Some parents are very happy. Most parents are content with the emails and communication they get. So we did work on that from last year. My child's school is welcoming to families.
Right.
Me personally and my staff, if you know any and all of the staff, they want to be welcoming. They want everybody to feel as if they're part of the Osgood family. Hence, we always use that word, Osgood family. My child communicates well with members of other families' cultural groups. I think we're really strong on that, and I do want to recognize that as a district this year, all years we've been working on, this year it was quite amazing to have the diversity evening that we had and see the different number of families from diverse backgrounds. I thought that was very impressive. And school safety. That number really put a smile on my face,
Great again.
particularly because, as Dr. Sullivan had mentioned earlier, you're talking about young parents bringing their children to some place for 6 hours a day, and they feel as if they're safe there. I don't
And
think
all
there's
of
any
these are in the
high
same
confidence.
window, so those comments about the timing of the survey,
Yes.
it falls for this.
I don't think there's a higher compliment you can get from a parent to say, rather to say that we feel comfortable with our child here.
Well, you can't do anything else unless they do.
Right.
Not well.
Not well. Overall, I feel my child's school is heading in the correct direction. That looks like
Great.
it's, people agree that we're moving in the correct direction. And thoughts. After reviewing the results with the Osgood School Council, we looked for target areas that we wanted to address. The top 3 areas are school safety, which we are working towards with the immense help of the school committee and Dr. Sullivan in central office, working towards a new vestibule for the Osgood. Communication, new weekly updates for families, daily Bloom messages, and weekly Twitter updates. Those are all coming from my office. In a few minutes, you'll see an example of when I had read the surveys from this year again, parents still wanted more input from myself. So instead of monthly, I went to weekly. And Dr. Sullivan, my entire office has a little bit of a contest going with on Fridays, who can get it out quicker. The sort of the newsletter, you or me, and you won every single time. So I just want to let you know.
That's funny.
I came close a few weeks ago with 1/4 but I didn't quite beat you. So
Yeah, I start getting a little anxiety about the newsletter sometimes. So like I'll work on it like Thursday evening, like at
yes,
home, I'll be working on it or something. And then those are the ones that get out.
so that
As the
is.
year goes on, I think I get fatigued and I feel like my.
No,
Fridays,
don't
I'm
give
not
me
gonna
any
be able to do it.
excuses. I'm trying to keep up. But just the weekly newsletter, again, in a few minutes, you'll see an example of that. Happens to be something that we're working on. If you
Oh, you
could
missed that.
try, family inclusion, more communication and presentations for pre-K families
Yes.
and new kindergarten families. I think this year we did a fabulous job. The entire staff was involved in our family involvement nights, which we had 2 of them. Our third one is going to be our arts night.
It was really
And
well attended and excellent.
the
Good
nights were-
feedback too.
The nights were absolutely fabulous. What I want to do is now extend that, and you'll see that in my school improvement plan. I want to include pre-K and the new incoming kindergarten parents. And the next slide show, I don't know if it'll let you, it let me get it, and then it did. Okay, great. So every Friday afternoon for the last 4 weeks, the parents have been getting this one-page newsletter. It talks about the would you rather question of the week, so they can talk to their child about that, tell us who the winner is.
Aquarium was the winner. I would say go to the zoo.
What do you see this week? Um,
That's right.
Then we do, this week, we talk about what happened in school this week. I also try and put in there, in-school events. For example, that would, down the bottom was, staff appreciation by the PSO, wanted to mention that. Family information, little chunks of information I'm finding being very helpful for parents. For example, in this one right here, please parents don't send in umbrellas with your, first and second grades because they become weapons. Not intentionally, but umbrellas are a little dangerous. So it's little bits of information that parents don't get overwhelmed with.
Right.
Important dates. Our oh so good phone call home pizza party that we had. Just one picture of that. The library asked us to put in the summer reading. And the photo of the week, we had a special visitor. Miss Gerard is coming back from maternity leave on Monday and she came to visit. We then have our quote of the week. And the quote of the week, our motto for the week is what I announce every morning for the first, for the 5 mornings. The would you rather for the following week, the word of the week that goes along with vocabulary, which I know the district, we're trying to work on broadening our vocabulary. And that's it. So it's one sheet, one page every week, not too overwhelming. And it's not too overwhelming to try and get that done in a timely fashion. Not as quick as you do, but in a timely fashion.
Great. Now move over to the plan.
So taking that information there and then moving right into developing and realigning the school improvement plan, as Principal Sullivan had said, let me go back to the important part. I'm so sorry. I'd like to give a special thank you and a shout out to the members of our school council and it being myself, Principal, the chair, Dave Vinton, who is our adjustment counselor. He's a staff representative. Jen McPhillips, first grade teacher, staff representative. And we have Lauren Grogan is a parent representative. Jenna is a parent representative. Andrew Knowlton is a parent representative. And Craig McCullen is our school committee liaison.
I'll go through. You already went through this, all the same.
Yep, thank you. These are our numbers projected for next year preschool. As of right now, we have 27 students that are registered.
Lisa, I just want to tell you, I didn't get to tell you, so we put this is this year's, the next page is your.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you.
There we go.
There's 3
Oh, to
numbers
make
in
it,
for
to
you.
make it equal with,
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Yeah.
For 23-24 for next year, we have 32 students.
And I had a question about that as I was reading here. We added a second preschool class.
Right,
Yes.
that's the
That's
number.
why the class
32.
sizes.
That's by the class, okay,
Yes.
got it.
when we go back,
So did we, I thought we had a waiting list though for kids.
we had, so we didn't do a wait list this year.
In the
Because
past, we've had.
In the past, we have.
We don't have a wait list this year.
Just we had 2 sections.
No. Well,
So we had 27 last year with a class size of 14. We have 32 this year with this class size of 15. It seems like the same number of classes.
I don't, I can't speak to
I guess I was expecting a
like a
significant bump in
bigger
enrollment
number,
with the
yeah.
new.
So
with the new class.
I want to say this number for preschool this year should be 16. The 16 spots that we have that are preschool and then.
Yeah, that's one class. That's right.
One class is
Yep.
16.
Yep. That should be it, and it'll be
Right,
32.
it's an error in the thing.
32? Oh, so this year's not 27, this year should be 16.
This year should be 16. It
16.
it can't be 27.
27 is probably the whole class,
It's 30.
which is the peers.
No,
No,
No?
no, because the whole class, this year should be
16.
51, 60.
Well,
I
we'll-
would have to figure
why
it
don't
out.
we,
I apologize
We'll fix
for that
that.
number.
It's not 27.
It's not
No.
27 for
because
sure.
I've been there.
Yeah,
But
but
there's
27 would
there's
be
two
morning and
sections, there's
afternoon.
a morning and an afternoon.
Ah,
So it might be
Right.
20, yes,
So
Right.
there is, so that's
Yeah.
part of it. I think
right.
it's not, you're not gonna see a doubled number. I did ask Ms. Sawanka this, because there's not a doubled number for when we add the second, because we were unclear around needs of students and things like that. So, but I know it wasn't a perfectly doubled number.
This
But
year
we
is
can check.
27.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sullivan, if you go, what was the other one, 30,
32.
Yeah,
32?
that's probably on the short side, though.
I would think it's on the.
Why don't we
short
look at
side.
all these numbers?
Yeah,
I
we'll fix
didn't, I didn't see, I just saw the number we had.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I was just surprised that seems low.
It,
Yeah, we'll look at the
it is,
preschool.
it's not, that can't be right. I was looking at something else and I was thinking it
Can't be
made sense, but
right.
it doesn't.
Okay.
that- that's
It's not,
right.
it's not compared.
Here
to
at the classroom, yeah.
Right, so next time, for the
We'll
next
fix it.
thing, let's come back and
Yeah.
Look at those.
find out what
Yes.
the numbers, because I'm also curious about since we've added the preschool class, what the enrollment number is. Either, I mean, just number of children, like, I know there's different ways to measure and peers and whatnot, but just like little human
Full number.
beings
Yep.
that are in the class.
We'll go
little
through-
Human beings last year.
Yeah, we'll go through all the numbers.
Yeah, it's the pre-K one that's probably,
Yeah,
the other one is.
the other ones look right.
So for kindergarten, this year, for next year, so far we have 100 students that have registered. Our grade 1 next year will be 117. That's the bump up right there. That we do have a lot of kindergarten this year. Grade 2, grade 2 would be 126 with our total of 371. And then our class average sizes 15, 17, 19, and 21. And Mr. Dial, when you were asking Principal Sullivan about the optimum size for the younger students, around that 18 number is, I think is fantastic, especially in kindergarten, when you have
ESP,
ESP and a teacher. That's really where you want to be.
That's great. So grade 1 and grade 2 seem to be, our average classes, as far as I can remember, trend around 100, 105, and they go up to
Yeah, we,
these seem to be pretty large classes right in a row. Are we expecting kindergarten to bump up as well? Like, should we be thinking that this is Harvard doing
I don't,
increased
it's really
class
hard to
size?
tell because a lot of families don't register. If they've registered already, and then there might be, typically what I've seen, 10 families register in June and July.
Yep.
So even if we go 10 more, we're still looking okay.
Yeah, well, I'm actually looking at it from the other perspective. Like, does this mean our schools are growing in a way they haven't in the past?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm surprised by our second grade number,
I think they're
126.
bumping up a bit.
Because what I'm thinking about is, again, we've averaged around, like, if you did like the median, it'd probably be somewhere around 100 single digits, like 100 to 80. I don't know.
103, 104.
But these are 120, 117. That
Yeah.
seems like we may be entering into a phase where we've got more kids per class. than we've had in the
We
past.
might, and then they're in 21 and 22, there's a bump.
Yep.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, so
Those numbers came out not that long.
So
We saw the birth rates.
we should just keep our eyes on that as we do
Absolutely.
long-term plan.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I have 4 goals that I'd like to share with you for our school improvement plan. I don't know which one's gonna be better, glasses on or glasses off, if you go with glasses on. SMART goal number 1, and as Principal Sullivan had said, a lot of our initiatives are our goals from last year. For us at the Osgood, we carried those over because initiatives take time to develop, they take time to implement, and then they take time to own. So we are at the stage for a few of these that we've developed them, we've implemented them, and now we're owning them and having to tweak in a couple of areas. So for example, the Osgood will continue to increase student learning in the areas of literacy and assessment. The increase will directly result from professional development offered throughout the year in literacy and continued professional development in assessment and data analysis, the key being data analysis. This involvement in student learning will be evidenced in the progress in the reading and math, iReady assessments of at least 25% school-wide. The number that we had last year, I want to say was like 17, 18%. We want to see more improvement on the skills that the students are learning and able to tell us about. So we want to bump that up just a little bit. If we go down to the action plans for that, continue iReady benchmark assessments 3 times a year during the school year to measure progress and inform instruction. When we're looking at the progress the children are making in the instruction that we have, are we able to match the two? If you've ever seen, well, for one thing that I want to mention is a lot of our students are just learning how to do assessments on laptops or on the iPads. So that's a skill in itself, learning how to do independent work. And then we have the skill that we're talking about is, are they progressing in their reading? So those 2 skills there, we need to make sure that we're looking at. So they didn't pick the wrong answer because they didn't know. They picked the wrong answer because they weren't quite clear on how to use the device that they were working with. So that's why it's really important that we have our DIBELS. We have our other benchmarks that we use. So we're really looking at, is it a reading issue or is it a reading concern? Or is the child just having a hard time manipulating and working through using the device that they're working on? The next bullet item from there, support grade level teams in the area of literacy and assessment, professional development, and implementation of programs in these areas. As you've heard, we have Reader's Workshop through TLA, working with our teachers and starting to roll that out at the Osgood with a lot of help and support from TLA and the reading specialists. We're just getting to where the children are reading independently, picking books and reading, going into certain areas and learning specific skills. We're really narrowing in on whole group work and specifically small group work. Provide continued targeted and general literacy for all students based on the data from the assessments, and analyze benchmarks data and to use it to inform instruction, utilizing the Osgood multi-tiered support system. When you were speaking before and I was listening, I was thinking about the question that you would ask Mr. Dial specifically about skills and lessons that are being given. Are we challenging our students? We have to go right back, particularly in the early grades, right back to what the data is saying. Are they able to accomplish this? If they're able to accomplish this, then let's stretch them a little bit. How far can we stretch them? Where do we hit our ceiling in stretching them? So that's why I find that the data is really important. Where are we? Where are we going with it? And are we sure we have a solid foundation? I by no means am a contractor. But if we don't have that solid foundation and we skip ahead because we think a child is there, we're going to lose that bottom layer, and you don't make that up easily. So, and I know it was mentioned before, I think with the date being as important it is, another addition to the central's administration with data curriculum and evaluation position being filled, I think that's going to be a huge piece for the staff and myself. Another person to be a thought partner with, and another person just to push our limits and test us. And I think that's what we need. Our second goal, the Osgood will continue to implement responsive classroom strategies focused on promoting equitable opportunities for the social and emotional wellness of our students. In conjunction with that, the Osgood will explore strategies from the zones of regulation curriculum to support our students in recognizing and expressing their emotions. I want to stretch that goal. We've had that. We've worked on that. We continue to work on it. But the important part is these resources will be shared with families. And speaking to Mr. Vinton and our new part-time adjustment counselor, Ms. DeLay, we want to see if we can meet kindergarten parents before they come in September. Even that first week in September, because as a kindergarten parent, you don't know what the blue zone is. You don't know what the red zone is.
So we gave it a nice start with the kindergarten jump start.
Yes, and the kindergarten jumpstart program is another piece. Just making sure parents know this is what your child is going to be talking about. I think we sometimes forget that the lingo, the jargon that we use at school and the students become really familiar with, when they go home, their parents don't know that. And I think that's will be a great dinner conversation.
Principal Farrell, can you just explain what responsive classroom is? I understand.
Yes.
It's sort of it's a robust thing, but can you summarize it?
Responsive classroom is a curriculum. It's a mindset. It is a pedagogy where teachers' morning meeting is a perfect example of responsive classroom. you talk about, so a morning meeting would happen, and maybe in this group here, a morning meeting might be, I noticed this morning that Dr. Scollins was having a difficult time sharing with Dr. Sullivan. And the morning meeting, we'll be talking about, oh, there's a particular book about sharing. As a group, how do we feel about sharing? It's a little difficult sometimes. Can you tell me a time when you didn't share? Can you tell me how you feel? So responsive classroom is reacting and acting to a situation so that you develop and you grow from that.
And our staff is pretty thoroughly trained.
The staff that's been with us for a while has been trained, and then we have new staff coming in. There's different levels of responsive classroom. It's very interesting. One of the things that I learned years ago from responsive classroom, we've all been told that, so if I would like Miss Owen to behave like the rest of you in the group, maybe she's talking or fiddling, whatever. She's not, she's being a very good audience member. But if she were talking and she were fiddling, in the past, as teachers, we've always been told, oh, I love the way Mr. McClellan's sitting there listening, eye contact's going on. I would use him as a positive model. Responsive classroom says do not do that, because now I've just put you in the spot of the other students, maybe thinking, wow, doesn't he think he's special? You are, but they might think that. So it's a mindset of how you can communicate with children so that it carries through with them. I don't want to make an example of you and make you feel bad, or vice versa. So that's probably the quickest way to know.
No, it's good. I wanted to make sure that.
So how would the what's the responsive classroom to get Ms. Owen in order?
Going over to her or actually,
No.
we're gonna have to put a lot of work on that one, okay? Just not calling anybody out and just saying, I'm so glad that we are all doing what we need to do, what we feel comfortable with, and then maybe addressing that, but I don't want to set something up so that could become a bullying situation.
Yeah.
You know, depending on what grade you're in, the older grades. But so if that describes responsive classroom very easily, then I'm hoping I did that.
No, it does.
Okay.
When you walk around, it becomes fairly evident really quickly once you're in the classroom. I mean, the teachers, Dr. Sullivan, do a good job, as you mentioned. They do a good job with that. I just want to make sure, I don't know that everyone knows what that is.
Yes, and
that would be listening to this presentation.
And that's a key point is, you know, in kindergarten, when those parents come in for the first time, we want to tell them what responsive classroom is. So that's a key point, is that when you enter the building, you know the different programs we use, you know the language that we use.
Yeah, it's very evident in like the kindergarten classrooms.
Yes.
Doing it, yeah.
So the action plans would be have staff continue to get trained in responsive classroom, identify classroom, grade level, and school-wide responsive classroom strategies, the zones, regulations, to address the challenges for all students, particularly those struggling with social and emotional situations due to the pandemic. The kindergarten students that we have right now, we're still seeing that they have certain areas of social and emotional that they need to work on. And it's not just sharing, it's not being the focus all the time. I think I know some adults like that. We're trying to work with the students to realize you have to take your turn. You have to let somebody else be the hero for a minute. And the last piece on the action plan for that is plan and host an evening for families to learn about the zones. In particular, these meetings for preschool and kindergarten parents. This goal here leads me into, it might skip over to the fourth goal, but
Okay, both go.
if we could just go to the third one and I'll
Okay.
continue to go in order. Thank you. Goal 3, during the 2023-2024 school year, Osgood will continue to the most effective way, to study the most effective ways of communicating with all pre-K through 2 families. Communications will be timely, concise, and easy to access. Community engagement will continue to foster through the outside partnerships. The first part of that is very directed towards pre-K. I want to really make sure that the pre-K students that are in the building feel as if they are part of Osgood, as opposed to there's pre-K and then there's Osgood. I showed this, all of this information plus the surveys to the staff at our last staff meeting last week. And I made a public apology to Miss Joyce. And I told her that next year I should not, would not, and cannot say, oh, I meant preschool also. Oh, I meant the preschool parents also. Oh, I think we'll have pre-K do this for a snapper sneaker. I want it to be all inclusive. That has to come out of all of our vocabulary. So pre-K through 2, building. It's an early elementary building. So we'll see how I do on my promise. Might take me until October, but I'll get there. And really important, that piece to me is to make sure everybody feels included. Everybody knows what the developmental stages are. I want to take a moment just to thank Dr. Scotland. She has shared with me, maybe Monday, a link that the Department of Education had put out with something very similar that you were talking about, Mr. Dial, as far as whatever grade level you're in, this is where you are, this is where you'll be at the end of that grade. And I was looking at the pre-K and the kindergarten one, and it, for parents, it's very impressive.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
And she was saying that she was going to put it on the website, and then we'll just keep referring to that. Because what a gift to be able to have a first grade student and say, wow, at the end of the year, this is where they're going to be. And at the end of the year, that's where they are. The action plans, develop a monthly plan to include the high school. And so the high school comes down to us quite a bit. I'd like to see them come down monthly, whether it's working with skills with students, whether it's playing math games with other students. We've had them down for recycling. We want to continue that collaboration. This year, the middle school came down, and they're coming down again May 26th, and they have the 8th grade students have a partnership with the kindergarten students. And that was awesome to see. I want to say it was March 1st. It was a little bit ago. So they're coming down again to be with their kindergarten friends. And I think the teachers probably enjoyed that more than the students did, because the kindergarten teachers love to see their 8th grade friends. And collaboratively plan events with the nursing home in town and with other agencies, the Situate Animal Shelter. That was has been on our goals, and it should be a little bit easier now that all the restrictions have been lifted for COVID. It's been very difficult to get people to be willing to have young students come in. And Osgood Faculty Senate and Osgood Social Committee will continue to work together to build opportunities for students, families, and staff to include more planned community involvement in our school. The goal is to have many people learn from and help to support our students. And last but not least, the last goal, Osgood will develop an early education transition program for our incoming kindergarten students and their families. With the addition of the new preschool classroom, we will enhance our school-wide communication to all new families. Communication will be timely, concise, and easy to access. The transition program into preschool, then into kindergarten, will provide families with information about our school, developmental information that will help them as they begin the educational journey through the Cohasset Public Schools. And the action plans add additional preschool, which we've successfully accomplished, so thank you to everyone. Post-orientation for preschool families. We're going to be doing our very first orientation for preschool families in June. Support preschool families as they join the Osgood community. Make sure they get the newsletters, the Osgood event invitations. Review preschool curriculum in math and ELA with Dr. Scollins and Ms. Sawanka. Support new staff, existing staff as they build a grade level. And remembering that Ms. Joyce has been the Osgood preschool person, singular, with her 2 ESPs, we've got to remember that we are now joining another teacher and another ESP. So they are now a grade level team, and they haven't, in a very long time, I haven't been there while they've been a team. They've been singular. So I think that will be really important. And plan transition programs for students as they go into kindergarten, the Jumpstart summer program, and parent orientations. I believe that's it.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Farrell.
Thank you.
I'll open up to the committee for comments. Mr. Carr, I'm kidding. Mr. Carr.
And go. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
No, your timing, please don't apologize.
I have only 17 questions at this stage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's just start from the top.
Sorry.
So I will let the minutes reflect Mr. Carr did arrive back in the meeting center hour at committee at 4 again. So with that, I'll start with Ms. Leskey. Do you have any questions or comments for Ms. Farrell?
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Farrell. It's lovely to hear what's going on. The first question I just had, well, it actually was the last question I had, but I'm going to ask it first, is that now with 1/3 of your incoming kindergarten class having been a cohort together, what is the plan, or has there been discussion around how you integrate that 1/3 group who has a year-long relationship with each other and familiarity with the staff in the building
Right.
into your other 2/3? I know there's still sort of a statistical minority, but the way children work, that can feel like a big group of kids that have a certain advantage.
Right. So when we do, right now, when we do placement, so the area and I don't know if I'm answering your question, so if I'm not, divert me back again. So the area of preschool, I meet with the directors, or the directors talk to the teachers, so that maybe we have 4 or 5 students from Brown Bear going into a classroom, a few students from that have been in the Osgood preschool, and so we combined everybody into the several classrooms. So you get a little sampling from each of the preschools, if that's answering your question.
Right, but then on top of that, so making sure that the classroom demographic in and of itself represents all of the preschool opportunities.
Right.
But some of those children will have a very unique experience, having more so than ever before.
Exactly.
Having been in the building, they'll know you, they'll know their kindergarten teachers by face.
Right.
They know where the bathrooms are. It's a very different
We do.
feeling to start,
Right.
than
So I
starting
think
brand new.
what the kindergarten staff, myself and the preschool teachers have been talking about is, do we have mentor students? Like, how do we have mentor students in preschool? You have your student that is there for one reason, and other students there to pal with them. Taking time to realize that, because again, the goal is to grow our preschool, but we have to do it in such a way so that the students that didn't go to Osgood are feeling accepted, welcome. And I think next year will be an easier transition for that. I think the years to follow, it'll be a little bit more difficult. And that gives us that year to figure out where we are. The Jumpstart program will be 2 days, 2 times, and preschool parents have gotten the notification about that. They're letting me know if they would like to join that. I think that piece is also going to be huge, just so that no matter where you went to preschool, you're going to have 2 days of figuring out where you're going and whatnot. And I found that 5-year-olds adjust very easily, more easily than anybody else. But it'll be that few minutes.
Thank you. And then with your zones of regulation, with doing all of this parent education, have you done some planning around, will there be an increase between home and school communication? Are you expecting families to just be aware of the zones of regulation, or is it something that you would want students to continue and families to use that language at home?
We do, when we had one of the evenings was the use of the zones. And we are throwing the zones out to families so that they can use it. And I'm so surprised how many parents will say, oh yeah, they said they were in the red zone and then they had to move into the blue zone. So I'm asking families to understand what their child is talking about. And when a teacher calls, emails, or just says that during conferences, wow, most of the time they're in the green zone, or we've really class expectations.
You mean when your child tells you you're in the yellow zone?
Yes, yeah, we do. We've had parents say that. Yeah, my child told me I was in the yellow zone. Other than the zones, another key term that we use is expectations. That was unexpected. Big problem, small problem. All of that terminology, we want them to be able to understand at home so they can use it also. Because a lot of times parents, this is their first child, or they are at a loss for how do you speak to your child so that they understand. Thank you.
Sean McCollum.
No questions, but I just wanted to commend you on the survey of responses. That's certainly illustrative of my personal experience with Osgood. Get a lot of responses in the 4 and 5 and in the 90%, 90% that range. It's I think that speaks to how well you run that building. Farrell, I mean, every time I'm there, I'm impressed. You're always at the epicenter of activity. You manage the building very well. I think you do a lot to foster very meaningful relationships with each and every one of the students there, even though you're not a classroom teacher. And I think you help keep our kids feeling safe and welcome. And that's why those responses are so good for the school. It's remarkable. And then lastly, I just want to, because I think we just did it for the first time last summer, right? The Jumpstart program, wasn't that the first rollout?
Yeah.
That was your creation, and it is awesome. I think people love that, and it's really meaningful experience for those kids and parents.
Yeah, I agree.
Well done, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it and the other transition programs you're talking about in the improvement plan with the pre-K too.
I have to say, thank you. I have to say that I have an amazing staff that is very supportive. They are, we have had 5 families in the last 3 weeks coming to do walkthroughs and interviews with us. They're interviewing us. And each time I say to them, and it's absolutely true, the Osgood is like the Magic Kingdom. And it's not because of the building, it's not because of the beauty of the building, because it is an absolute beautiful building. it's because of the people that are in the building. And how can you be upset going to work with 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds every day? They bring, we don't have any raging homes in the building for children, so that's a key. I understand that, but it is a very good place, and the support that we receive from central office and from the school committee makes things so much easier. So thank you.
That's a good point. We do have really talented classroom staff at that school too. I think some of the best teachers in the district are in the Osgood School. Thank you. Great.
Ms. Farrell, excellent, excellent survey responses. I'm on a tight ship over at the Osgood. All the feedback I received is positive. I have no comments on your plan, which means we get to go to the next kind of substantive comment, and this would apply for all the plans as we move forward. You know, I would love for us to hear back on implementation of some of these things. Like, for example, you have some very specific, and I love the detail of the action items, but you know, you've got post-orientation for preschool families. I'd love to hear back about that happen. You know, support preschool families, newsletters and initiatives. Would love to see where you land on some of these things. So on this and on the Deer Hill plan, for all of those, it'd be great to have kind of updates on how these things are
Yes,
are
absolutely.
proceeding. So
Yeah, the good news is that those make nice spotlights too. You know, as we talk about what happened in those meetings.
And Dr. Sullivan mentioned the leadership team today, or I don't know, it seems like it was last week. But one of the things that we've talked about is when we went through and we put what the year looked like for us, what we've accomplished this year, or what we've tried to accomplish this year. It's pretty amazing what, as a whole school district, everybody's accomplished. But even just as you were saying, so did you do that? It's nice to sit back and say, I did, but I'm not really satisfied with it, or I didn't knock that one out of the park. But I don't think a lot of times, Principal Sullivan said the same thing. I don't think that we're very good at selling ourselves sometimes, because we're just moving on to the next, or we just expect that this is what we should be doing. But you're right, saying that we either A, accomplished it, or B, we want to change it a little.
it's great. It's great to do, not only for that purpose, but also for us to discharge our obligations as a committee. But you know, what I'm thinking about as you're talking is, Dr. Sullivan, we prepared for annual town meeting. You know, we had asked for wanted to do a couple bullet points, and you were able to develop 16 pages of accomplishments.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, when you take the time to reflect on what you've done, you can really see how far we've come and the things that we've done as a district. So I would like to keep that as part of our regular cadence of reporting going forward. Keep these improvement plans on a, you know, maybe a quarterly update on where we are and where we're going, how it's working, what's adjusted, that sort of thing. But Mr. Farrell, thank you very much for what you do and for your plan. And we will, as I mentioned before, put this up for a vote at the next meeting. We'll vote for all four.
And I'll double check on the preschool numbers.
Great.
It's gonna make this, they'll make a change in the Deer Hill one too.
Yep.
We'll have those ready for you for vote.
Great. And then I'll note for the record that Mr. Kearney has also returned, so we're back to a full quorum. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice
Have a
night.
nice evening.
Thanks so much.
All right, so Healthy School Improvement Plan agenda. We're moving on to agenda block D, school updates from our very own Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Patrick Sullivan. Okay. Oh, ruined the surprise. Blew it. I blew it. Okay. I was hoping he was looking down, and he just got it at the end. Spies everywhere.
Anyway.
Back up. What do you see?
I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I didn't see anything on the screen. So my updates will be brief, but I do want to mention that we had a nice spotlight tonight where the school, right now, as we speak, we have the high school arts night happening. And it's a wonderful night. It shows the diverse talents of our students and in many mediums, and also of our staff. You know, and I want to thank all of that. We got a nice tour from our director of music and arts, 6 through 12, Stephanie Moriarty, including listening to the band who went into a rollicking version of Rock Around the Clock for us. So they weren't even ready, and she's like, play it. And I'm like, okay. And they did a great job. But it was a lovely lovely show, and I just have some samples of some of the panels that are there, and you can see the wonderful work they do in very many different styles, and, you know, going into these classes and watching the way that these, that our teachers intertwine art history, and the knowledge of the use of color, and I mean, it's very impressive to see our students thrive. And there's some individual students who were highlighted. There were many up there. This is Lucy Farrington. You can see some of her sculptures and artwork. Wonderful. Some of the photography we have, Miss Anthony. This is it's Billy Tranjar Barron. And we have Miss Anthony does a great work with our photography students, and very talented kids. You just see some Isa Chase, it's beautiful paintings. I thought that was really interesting. Lexi Sorensen. Some design and clearly some
That's
of
my
the.
daughter's
I was
stuff
gonna say,
right
you might
there.
know that.
There you go.
Yeah. Including her
Obviously,
prom dress,
yeah.
which she has designed made herself.
amazing.
It's fantastic.
Obviously, you know, a theater interest here, so wonderful. Sculptures. And then they made a point of highlighting the certificates of awards for effort and progress, and all students receive something. It was nice to see that, really talking about the process as opposed to the product, because they're all learning and growing.
And Dr. So I think it'd be worth just a beat to talk about those custom ones if you don't mind.
Students were to write
Yeah,
their
you-
own. Yeah, so do you want?
Yeah,
me to
you
start?
can go
Yeah,
now.
so there are, you can see there's two, there's the rectangular ones on the bottom of each of the white, there's kind of a softer color. Those were actually filled out by the students, and the teachers actually gave them to them and said, we'd like you to give yourself an award, and they were a little bit perplexed at first. But the reason they wanted to do it was that they didn't want they were trying to make the point of the students being not motivated by outside things like grades and approval of others, but about themselves, and to really think about themselves and give themselves an award. And they were really representative of who they are. Some were very funny, some were just about how they felt about their abilities to complete work, or that they thought they were really good at something. So it was really nice, because it's really important for our students to really be about process, which we have been talking about in particular at the high school. I know that Principal Scott has talked a lot about that, but also for students to be able to be self-reflective and think and motivate themselves, because they are their biggest motivators. So that was really nice.
And they have a space for kids and families to create their own art. That was nice, using the
And then they
cafeteria.
write messages, and
Yeah.
and then they hang them back in the classrooms after it's all done.
Right, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
And then this was Ariane playing under the direction of Miss Moriarty. Again, just as they're getting, literally getting ready,
Right.
but it was
For
nice.
walking in while
Yeah.
they're playing.
It was a lovely event. Congratulations to all the staff and families and of course students who put that on. Wonderful Cohasset Education Foundation run spelling bees, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. Excellent to see the students working in teams to spell most of the words correctly. I was impressed. That was very impressed. Third grade. And I just want everybody to know there is a giant bee loose in Osgood School, Deer Hill School. There is. But
He himself.
it is, but I do want to say a special thanks to Vice Chair McClellan and Chairman Dial for their emceeing, along with Principal Sullivan. Did a great job.
School spirit.
Dr. Scollins was a nice, I'm a judge too, but the bee is loose.
Obviously, a candid shot I didn't know was being taken.
Or presented at the meeting.
Right.
Yeah, usually when you wear a giant bee costume, you don't think anybody's gonna take the photo.
I might have a couple of
Some-
I might have a couple.
Yeah, it's good, but if you do see this bee flying around, ask
Swat it.
So anyway, I just wanted to just highlight those. And then one very important highlight of something upcoming. This is really exciting. And I haven't been able to talk about it because it hasn't been definitive yet. And now it's certainly coming to fruition. As you all know, Cohasset resident, former Cohasset resident, Cohasset student, Steve Bowen, astronaut Steve Bowen, was the commander of one of the missions that went up to the International Space Station. He's been up there since, I believe, February, and he's there for about 6 months. And he has graciously agreed to talk to our students from space. So we've been working behind the scenes with NASA to make this happen. I can't even believe it can happen, but it is going to. So we have a couple of possible dates. The one we're hoping for is this next Wednesday, May 24th, from 2:25 to 2:50. And we're going to be having a conversation with astronaut Bowen. He'll be in space, obviously, we'll be here, and we'll be able to see him. He'll have a one-way connection so he can hear us. And we have about 20 wonderful questions that are going to be asked by students who were chosen based on their question from all levels, kindergarten right up to grade 12. Just extremely excited about it. And we have a backup date. Interesting, the backup date is earlier than the actual date. The backup date is Tuesday, the 23rd, from 12:15 to 12:40. It's all predicated on the Axiom 2 launch, which supposed to happen on Sunday. If it happens on time, then we stick with our Wednesday date. But if it gets delayed, for some reason, we go earlier. I don't know. They're smarter than me. They're from NASA. Literally, I'm going to let them guide us on that. So, but anyway, they've been wonderful to work with, and kudos to our technology staff because they've been figuring out. We had a test. We tested a signal. So technically, we've already spoken to space from Cohasset Public Schools. That the test went well. So of course, the committee's all invited for that, and it will be streamed on 143 Live and also on Facebook, so the whole community can see it. So
Fantastic.
it should be really a special experience.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we'll start telling the press, so it's out there now.
Yeah.
I'll put it on a newsletter, and we just don't know which date yet. So that's it. Those are my updates.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sullivan. That moves us to agenda block E, teaching and learning, academic initiatives and updates, kind of a standing agenda item. Dr. Scollins, anything to report? I know there's a lot going on with the MCAS season, so.
There are so many things. I'm just gonna give you quick highlights
Yep.
because
That's great.
there's between field trips, testing and all sorts of stuff. But MCAS is still in process, but we're getting through. We had math MCAS yesterday today at the high school, so they're complete with that. They'll be doing their physics in that first week of June, second week of June, I should say. And then the math for the middle school, they completed that, and then their science is tomorrow and Friday, so they will be done at the end of this week. There may be some makeups, but in general, they'll be done. And then at Deer Hill, they did their science earlier in the month of May. They just completed their math for grade 3, and then they have 4 and 5 on Thursday and Friday in math, and Friday, everyone should be done. But a couple of stragglers probably, if students were out of makeup. So that's good. AP courses, all those exams finished last week, so that is nice. The students are, I know, poor Mercedes, she had the last one last day, and she even made it to your meeting for the superintendent's advisory.
Yeah.
She had an AP that day or the day before. I mean, she was a trooper. So the kids they just really work so hard. I met with kindergarten teachers this week because they are going to be moving from semester progress reports to align with everyone else, 1 through 5. They'll be in trimester. So I met with them. We looked at that and what that will look like. And then Osgood and Deer Hill have one more professional development day with our TLA, our reading consultants, and they'll be doing some reflection on what happened this year around Readers Workshop and then set up for next year. So that's really exciting. Deer Hill will move into their 2nd year, and Osgood will actually have their first full year next year of Readers Workshop. We have lots of teachers that were piloting it this year, and they'll be moving forward with that. Spring benchmark assessments, they're going to start now that MCAS are over. They'll start those. And the iReady assessments, they'll all go home before the last day, because I know that was a little bit hard last year. And rightly so, parents wanted some more information about that. And then next week, we have a our volunteer committee meeting will be working again to look at the ways that we can add more opportunities for volunteers, but also really looking at making sure the process for volunteers is consistent across buildings. And then half a PD day next week on Friday. That's it. That's the last one. And Deer Hill Osgood in the middle school will be working on placement, getting those things all ready. And the high school, they have a lot of things to tie up, and they're also looking at and the results from that and working.
And don't forget graduation. The
And
next time we actually meet,
The third.
June 3rd. So we're excited for that. That's a massive production.
Were all the robes ordered for the members?
Yeah,
I have
Yeah.
one, I still have one.
no, you're all saying, they haven't come in yet, but they're all ordered.
All right, so that's good.
I have my own blueberry robe.
Right.
You guys.
So anyway,
I
we're
don't
all
wanna
accounted
wear
for,
it.
we all have one already.
That's what I've been
Less
told.
than mine,
Yes.
We
Oh,
need like our academic.
Yes.
We'll circle back after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
any questions from the committee? I do want to kind of get moving on the agenda so we don't get cranky, McClellan.
you're.
All right, so that concludes teaching and learning. Thank you very much, Dr. Scollins. Very much appreciate it. That opens up our budget resources and governance with Ms. Sue Owen. Ms. Owen, the floor is yours. Budget and finance, I think, kicks us off.
Right.
Exciting.
Do you have the memo? You want me to-
I have the.
You are now, have the power. Yeah, good, we at this now, Ray? We were really clumsy when we first out of this, but now we got it going on.
There you go. All right. Welcome. So this is just a quick update on the April finance report for this year. As we're rounding out the end of the year. As of April 30th, we've expended approximately 76% of our budget, and we are 83% through the year. So still in good standing. We have encumbered materials in the amount of 564,000, and we have a remaining balance of 5.3 million, which will cover our remaining payrolls now through the end of June. Sped tuitions haven't changed significantly. They went down a little bit. We had a shortfall of about 97,000. This month is 96. That's usually because a bill came in less than, a child didn't go to school the full month. So our tuition bill was less than what we've encumbered. Bill was paid. It frees up some money. And then the next group on the agenda, on the memo, sorry. The list of each school and their budgets and what they've expended and encumbered and what the balances are. They're all in the 72, anywhere from 70 to 75% expended. And again, we're 83% through the year. So they're all in good standing at this point. Capital, there's no capital projects still outstanding for this year. I did put a list, the capital as we presented it. So if you notice, there's a lot of strike throughs. I just wanted you to see what the ask was and what we were approved. So we were approved for the bus lease, the replacement of the aging Chromebooks, replacement of the 28 smart board or panels in the middle school, and the iPads for the Deer Hill and the Osgood elementary schools. And everything else was taken off the list. Our grants, we did have several grants that had additions, which are highlighted in yellow. So the sped improvement grant, we were given an additional $182. Our sped IDA grant, we were given an additional $1,500. Our early child grant, we were given an additional $39, and our Title I, we were given an additional $67. And we did have two new grants come in. One was the Medco Sped Supplemental Grant in the amount of $11,135, and then the Civics Project Showcase Grant, which was for $5,000.
Great.
Revolving accounts, we talked about this the last meeting, but I know it was important to Mr. Kearney that we're breaking down the gift account. So in high, where it's high rated, you now see middle school revolving, Deer Hill revolving, and Oscar revolving. It was previously all
One.
in one account. So now we're breaking it down. We're trying to break it down even further. And itemize what exactly those amounts are for. But most of our revolving accounts, if you notice the balances, they are way down. I mean, CEF, obviously, we have $126,000 in there. We just received a $100,000 grant from them. We have yet to spend that. That's for the Learning Commons at Deer Hill. And then the rest of the accounts are slowly decreasing as the year continues on. There's no areas that, the only area that's still in the negative is the school rental. Hopefully, by the end of the year, when we collect all our fees, that deficit will at least be there. Again, our school lunch program, their balance is down to 224,000, and we are in the process of purchasing new cafeteria furniture for all three of our schools. So that number, and we're going to upgrade our upper and lower senior lounge with some different style furniture. So that number will definitely go down as well. And information, just giving you head counts versus FTEs and the categories. Again, the breakdown of the schools based on FTE and positions. No, there's been no changes here. We haven't added any staff. Summary of our electric through March. Numbers are up a little bit. There's our gas, again, slight increase over last year, not much, $5,000. Total grants, FTEs, and how they're broken down are revolving, and how they're broken down. I mean, this stuff is repetitive month to month. And then enrollment. So each month I'm adding enrollment. So here is the enrollment as of May 1st. And here is the month to month.
If you can go just back, when you said, this illustrates the point I was alluding to earlier, Dr. Sullivan. If you look at the kindergarten and first grade, we got 115, 125, we got 107. If you look down, these are the largest classes that we've had in years. So it may be a trend that we're getting, the school community is growing, which would be great. So we should watch that so that we can strategically plan for it, because as you know, we have some facilities issues that may not accommodate much larger classes. So if that trend continues, that may accelerate some of the needs that we have.
It's very true what you just said. If you look at the month to month, our enrollment just from month to month is growing. And I even had to, I even called and said to the school, did we really add students? And we did. So, and just some quick updates. Middle high school, the fitness center, some floor is in. The room is currently being painted, is just about finished. Once completed, new equipment will be installed. Delivery date is apparently the first or second week in June is what we're looking at, which is not that far off. And then the fitness center will be open Tuesday to Thursday from 3 to 6. And our hope is that we can have it open over the summer.
Yeah, and this might be a good point to address the conversation we had about funding. And we had talked about the funding either coming from capital or coming from revolving. And after an exploration of our revolving, we feel confident we can use revolving to fund, if not all, the majority of it, and that we don't need to tap into capital.
Correct. I mean, the hope is that we don't have to go back to capital
Right.
For any part of this.
Yep.
Athletic director is confident with, with the revolving account and with all the
So it would be
events
akin,
they have coming
yeah,
up. that they're
it would be
gonna
akin to the
raise enough
equipment
money.
being purchased out of the food service revolver for all that
Correct.
new material. Yeah.
So in short, we found we self-funded that.
Yep,
We were able to find a way to make the.
we felt confident about it, yeah.
Excellent.
Correct.
That's great.
The Learning Commons, where we sit, is now open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 6. It is being utilized. The students have appreciated it. I've heard from Charlie and several of the others that it definitely helps.
Here. Oh, Jackson.
There you go.
In our food service department, so we have a new assistant director of food service in Coventry. Her name is Kim Urban. She has hit the ground running and offering a wide variety of specials. Every day at the Nome High School, she has began to offer taste tests or samples at the elementary schools, just to try to introduce things slowly. Because the younger children don't always want to taste something new, so she's kind of spending a little bit of time at each school, doing taste tests as the kids going through line, and she's asking, would you like to try this? And I think I heard from our food service director that former school committee member Lydia called and said, or emailed and said her daughter had the best meal she's had in a long time. So
That's fantastic.
it's hopefully working out. They also have a new food service newsletter that goes out weekly. It's attached to Dr. Sullivan's newsletter. There's a link to it, which is going to highlight. I did notice that she's highlighting now in that newsletter menus at least a week ahead of time for specials. It's kind of hard to plan specials because it's really depending on what ingredients you have, especially at this time of the year. They're trying to wind down and utilize everything we have versus purchasing more food that's going to be
Makes
stored.
sense.
And then kindergarten, the great news is beginning 2023-24 school year, our full day kindergarten is now tuition free.
Yeah, huge accomplishment.
Which is a huge accomplishment. I know there's been questions out there. We've had some phone calls for the families that have already made the deposits for next year. The business office currently is running a warrant. I saw it today. So in the next week or two, you should receive a refund check.
Nice.
And then the athletics, other than the fitness center, nothing's changed other than the track and the turf are complete and the teams are out there playing and classrooms are out there every day on that field. Still waiting for the aerial drone shot from,
I know. I'm not sure that's gonna happen, but it's a nice, it looks great.
it's gonna happen. So at this point
Okay, right.
in the year, I don't have any concerns regarding the budget.
It's fantastic. I'll just open the floor to committee members. Any questions from the committee members? Mr. Carr.
Thank you for copying us on notes, like to everybody get your bills in, which I think is a very good practice. Do you find people are pretty attentive to that, or is that going? No, it's not unusual. Yeah. Okay, and
I still send it out all the time.
okay, great. Does that lead to like unpaid bills generally at the end of the year, like, or
No,
no?
no,
it just-
we start to chase.
You do. Okay. Yeah.
Because once it goes past June 30th, you
Yep.
can't pay them
Right.
unless we go to town meeting.
Exactly.
And I don't
Okay. Let's
ever
avoid
want to
that.
have to go to town meeting and say we didn't pay them.
Yeah. Right.
So you won't see it happen. You
Okay.
won't see it happen from me.
Okay, that's
Um,
great. And then unusual things that we vote on to fund, and I'll just give one example, like the scoreboard at the Barnes Field and stuff. Are those things all accounted in this fiscal year? Are they drawn down? Remember, we voted to give some money to the
To the,
school, to the athletic fields over there. Will they get that money before June 30th? They haven't
They
asked
haven't
me.
asked.
They haven't asked, okay. Is that
Yeah,
important to us to get it out the door before?
No,
end
not
of year, or-
necessarily, because there's no reason
Okay.
we can't pay it after July 1st.
You can't, okay, all right, great,
It would just come out of next year's budget versus this year.
okay, great. Okay,
any other questions from committee members?
yeah, a couple things, just the scoreboard is with supply issues, it hasn't come in yet.
Oh, it
so
hasn't?
They
Okay.
actually fixed the old one.
They
so
did?
It's kind of,
Okay.
but it's like 1982, it looks like a lot.
It's I walk with my dog sometimes over there, and it's
Yeah.
a total antique, I agree with you.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
working,
Okay,
which is,
good.
so the company that's buying the new sign came in,
Yeah.
said, listen, we're waiting for the new sign, but we'll fix this old sign.
Okay,
So
great,
to that, I also, like, when I was first on this committee about 5 years ago, we used to sign the warrant. I think we should bring that back because to be honest with you, I don't see the warrant as enough, and then I don't really have time to go over each one. I think it's important that we sign the warrant. And I
So
kind
the
of
practice before was that we bring the physical copy of the warrant and we would have a signature
maybe committee member. So,
page from every committee member, and
Right.
pass it around. And it's,
We'll take that offline. There's some
Okay.
procedural stuff. that,
because I think that's important, because it's like, that's when you get to ask the questions, is when you go through the warrant. And I don't even know if it's legal that what we're doing now.
well, it is because
We've got that covered.
Lance
It's legal.
signs it.
We're good.
But
I
who's
signed
signing
it.
it right now? How many people have to sign?
The chair.
The chairs.
Just one person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we will bring that up, because I'm concerned with that.
No, it's great. I just
Um,
answering your question.
Yeah, so I think it was because of COVID that we stopped signing.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
Nutrition and food services, we talked about that. So a lot of the stuff was already, there was some stuff already bought this year for the new middle high school. The stands and all that, that was already taken out and already paid for. From that, correct? Like
The
all
whole
the,
new equipment?
yeah, all that.
That's already.
Yeah,
gone there.
so that's what I'm
gone.
saying, like, I see that fund has been depleted, but to know that it's going to.
It's going, 'cause
Yeah,
now it's,
see it.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff's been bought in the last years and.
Uh-huh.
it's all the new-
now it's gonna be new,
Yeah.
cafeteria tables in all the
Cafeteria.
schools.
Okay, cool. And then as far as the track maintenance, I noticed that we got a new track, but it needs maintenance outside as far as the grass being cut and all that. So if we could talk to maintenance and walk the track and make
Yeah.
sure that someone's taking care of that.
DPW does the mowing of the,
Oh, so so we're in charge of this, all the school area, but they're in charge of the trash. Okay, so, because it needs a little.
that's my understanding, correct?
Okay, so if they could do a walkthrough through that, they probably
Yep.
just have them
Could look at that.
maintained and so on.
Yeah, I haven't actually been able to look at that.
Yeah, I was there yesterday. The school looks great, looks fantastic. That's has looked in years,
Right.
except for the track, because we just spent $1 million. We should cut the grass around.
Track looks good.
Yeah, the track looks.
Just the
ground is-
ground.
Yeah.
You know, I might suggest, Carl's very approachable on stuff like that, like a new asset. If you said, hey, can you come down and let's get some agreement on what to do out here? I think he's the head of DPW. So it might be a good meeting to have.
Yeah, and, also too, is when we talk about finance, we talked about that gift donate page.
Mhm.
And we've been working on that to try to get folks to do more donations, because especially if you knew what you're donating for. So the idea is to put up everything that we need, and, you know, somebody had kindly donated a new learning common to Dare Hill. So those are the things that what we could do, is put up an ask, because it looks like our town is not happening with all those big zeros. So
I can check on that.
we would like.
Yeah,
to-
you've mentioned that a
Status
couple
is,
times.
yeah.
It's a good
So
idea.
Status.
We are
Okay,
working
we're
on
working
the
on it.
scholarship line to be able to help students who defray the cost of some of these wonderful trips that are very costly.
Yeah.
Across the board. So, but,
Right.
so that's why I was a little confused, because we're doing donate for that too. But you're right, donate for other things.
Correct.
Yeah.
And while we're on that subject, I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about, is it Dr. Goldman?
Golden, the
Goldman?
doc, our district doctor, yes.
So our district doctor,
Oh, what he's,
he wants to, forfeit his fee that he charges us each year. I think it's like $5,000, and, develop some type of scholarship with the money. So I'm just waiting for him to send me the language of what.
yeah, I haven't had the chance to personally thank him for that, but it's a very kind gesture. on his part. He's been an excellent consult when we need him.
Either comes to the committee. I think that'll close off budget and finance. I think the next item is electric bus contract approval, that I understand the contract itself is still under some negotiation.
Yes, correct.
So-
Time is here too. I don't know, time is the expert in it too.
Go right on.
Pull up the chair.
And we have Ray, who's, just to recognize
I don't know
him.
if everyone's met Ray,
Next, Ray, welcome.
Oh,
Director of
Transportation.
Right.
Transportation, Social.
Yes.
Yes.
Supervisor.
Director of Transportation.
Sorry, supervisor of transportation.
Yes.
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 So we're very close with the e-bus.
The real expert, I might. We're very, I can give a summary and then Susan, if you want to add.
Can we, Ms. Patel, can you just identify, like, introduce yourself? Because I don't think we would probably get that a second ago. You said Tanya. I don't know that everyone knows who
Okay,
you are.
that's all right. Tanya Bodell. I live at 88 South Main Street. I'm the chair of the Alternative Energy Committee. And we have for a year and a half been working with the schools about a demonstration project with an electric school bus. It would be one bus, significant grants to bring the cost down to at or better than what the diesel buses cost us. That would allow us to run the electric bus, understand how it works, whether or not there are any challenges. We've already done some tabletop exercises to really pound out to make sure there are no real challenges. And have mitigated that with an upgrade to the charger. The original proposal was a level 2 charger, which turns out in winter acts like a level 1, which would not work. So Enel has now added a Yamma Jamma level 3 charger, which is better than a level 3 charger, which would allow during the half days, it came down to 8 days, would allow the bus to be able to charge. And Ray has talked to the Boston school system to understand how electric buses work. So a lot of work has gone into this with Susan, with Ray, with Enel, a lot of collaboration. And I think the content concerns are resolved. That Ray, I don't know if you want to talk about where you are with respect to the operational aspects of the bus.
Very happy with the upgraded charger that makes the bus.
It's very costly too.
Yeah,
Just Hingham just bought 2 installed for $171,000. And these are better. This one is better.
We just
So
have to find a place. to put it.
Yes.
That's the one outstanding
That's the
issue
one
that's been there
outstanding.
since the beginning.
And I was mentioning earlier before the meeting that, town council has looked at the contract, school council is has looked at the contract, and now school council is working with Enel's council just to finalize, and then we're all in agreement and just need, signature. And then they're gonna have the bus to us for the first day of school, is what I'm told.
Excellent.
So I don't know
So-
if there's any questions
Yeah,
on
so
that?
just for the committees and Ms. Letsky to bring up, see that we left, this has been Ms. Bedell has graciously presented to us several times on this project. And in the last meeting, we approved moving forward, but we didn't approve kind of the whole, let's do it. And so I think the question here is, after we've gotten all the information that we have, we ironed out the operational difficulties. One thing I'll ask you, Ms. Owen, so you're ready, is just the finances and just I want to run those to ground. But this is an opportunity for the committee to ask any questions before we finally approve or take a vote to whether to approve finally going forward. So any questions from I'll just do open forum.
Do you have any obstacles do you need any other resources to come to a conclusion on the contract, or is you feeling comfortable the process is
No,
going
I'm-
to work well?
I'm
I
really
think it was great.
comfortable.
Everybody jumped right to get it.
No, I'm really comfortable because we've all, between Tanya
Yep.
and Michelle Leary and Anel, and, how many sets of eyes have been on it?
Yep.
Town council and school council. I'm comfortable with it, I don't think we can get anything more detailed now. I mean, I think we're there. It's just, where is this charging station gonna go for 5 years?
Great.
And the funding is, capital's already approved.
So capital approved the 25 grand.
25,000.
Is that, and will that be reapproved each year? Or,
So that's approved for year 1. Under Massachusetts municipal law, every contract has an appropriations clause that if the money's not appropriated, the contract doesn't get paid. Obviously, Enel is looking forward to us approving it every year. And we would want to approve it every year. Frankly, we get the maintenance for free. They're covering that, and we get the fuel, the
Right.
electricity that the bus uses for free. And that's what really makes it an advantageous opportunity. I've mentioned before, the EPA has money that's coming out, we just as Cohasset are not eligible. We're just not eligible for some of these other funding opportunities. So this is a very unique opportunity. And Enel has learned what a New England Yankee, how New England Yankee negotiates, because it hasn't moved from where they had been. And I think the key thing was Ray coming in and understanding the operational challenges
talking to Boston, getting their numbers.
Jim Anderson.
Yeah.
The Allison.
Right.
So, I mean,
there's
I'm
a lot of
comfortable
work.
with, I think that the attorneys are having the final conversation tomorrow, and then they'll get us the document for signature, and I know we were talking about
Yes.
sign, and I think we said Dr. Sullivan could sign.
So on the finance, so there's two paths. One, we could, like we did for our normal buses, go through a capital request. But in the event that we aren't able to get a capital approval from the town, are you comfortable that we'd be able to absorb the year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5 in our school budget?
I'm not certain. I mean, I would have to, we would definitely have to give something else up.
Right.
But the intent is, I think, capital, like with all of our leases for buses and
Right.
computers.
And I guess that's what I was asking.
Continue.
And I don't know if Ms. Beto, you know, if, because when capital approves our leases, our
Yes.
lease buses, they approve it every year with the understanding they'll approve it the following year for the term of the lease. I just wanted to confirm that that's the understanding, because what I'm worried about, just as a, being mindful of budget, is I don't want to have a surprise, oh, we owe $25,000 that we weren't budgeting for year 2 or year 3 and not be able to do something for our kids, not questioning the,
Right.
there's a great opportunity. I want to make sure it works.
Absolutely, and I did, as part of finalizing where we are and getting it over the finish line, I talked to both advisory and capital, and both of them said that in approving, remember, they were unanimously approving the first
Yep.
year funding. They said as part of that, they looked at the whole 5-year contract,
That's,
and that they approved the 5-year contract, subject to obviously having to approve the funding.
Yep. understanding that it's a
Going forward.
5-year contract. That's all I need to hear.
Yes, yeah, and neither of them felt like they needed to hear from us again.
Yep.
They said it's up to now the school committee, but we've already approved this, we've approved the 5-year lease, we don't approve 1 year of a lease unless we agree with the entire lease. We're good,
Perfect.
so.
Any other questions, comments from committee members?
I just got a quick thank you. And I just want to say how grateful we are as a committee because Cohasset's being proactive and, hopefully the next school bus leases won't entitle diesel buses.
Mhm.
Anybody who's standing next to anything that diesel, you can't breathe. So thank you for being proactive and putting Cohasset on the path.
Well, thank you. It's definitely been a humongous team effort.
It has been a huge undertaking, it has. A lot of time spent.
So although we didn't include the asterisk here, the word approval is on the agenda, so I think it's fair notice that we were going to approve something at this meeting. So if there are no other comments, I'd entertain a motion to approve the acquisition of the electric school bus through the NL program.
Point of inquiry, Mr. Chair. I thought we said that the contract was still being negotiated right now or being,
The verbiage
It's the
is
verbiage.
in lawyer's zone.
right, so,
Should we
so
include that
what are
in
we
motion?
approving?
We're not approving the we're approving. the
Content is,
acquisition.
content's safe. It's some of the verbiage.
So we're just like we don't sign, we don't approve every contract that the school signs.
Right,
So we're not approving the contract. We're approving is the directive to the administration to move forward with the acquisition of a bus on terms that they mutually agree to.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yes,
So that's
so moved.
so moved. We have a motion from Vice Chair
Second.
McClung, second from Mr. Carr. We'll just do a roll call. Mr. Kearney,
Aye.
Mr. Carr,
Aye.
Ms. Leskey.
Aye.
Ms. McClung,
Aye.
and Mr. Dial. Aye. The motion carries. Dr. Sullivan, please implement and let's move forward with a electric school bus.
Pleasure. Thank you for all of your hard work.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for your.
Just Howard Grew and Susan, who was with us all the way, and Michelle, it really has been a team effort, but we're very excited about this. We think it's a great opportunity. And I do believe that when this, when the lease comes up, we will know
Yeah.
if the electric school buses are commercial and whether the $6 billion that the administration has dedicated to that has moved it down the cost curve. Because without these grants, I would never come before you and recommend it, but this is very. unique.
Without you, Ms. Waddell, we wouldn't benefit because you are the force
Right.
involved energy in this. You are, and you've come here and sometimes it's been frustrating for you. You've come here many, many times. And so this, I think, is a culmination of least one of those multifaceted efforts. So thank you.
Let's take a,
I think it deserves recognition. I mean,
we'll take a ceremonious
Good
first
luck.
ride by the.
Yeah, we'll pick you up.
You let me have the big scissors. Yeah, take the ribbon off. And I would also request, when you get to the point where you're looking at the bus depot, we can offset probably close to half of those costs with the solar and storage opportunities. So if you're thinking about that, we're here for you. I'm not gonna come to you proactively on that one because I know there's still things happening, but when you're ready for our help, come to the Alternative Energy Committee.
Understood.
And
Makes
we'd love to
sense.
work with you. And if you get new roofs, we're like dying to put solar on the roofs. As well.
Over the buses.
Yes.
And or parking lots too. That was a issue, but, and there's stuff we have to deal with, I think, but I also want to give my personal thanks to Ms. Fidel. I know I've been I don't want to say a skeptic because I'm not a skeptic, but I've been really concerned on the budget, and you have done everything to resolve all of my concerns to a T. And I very much appreciate your work. So thank you very much on behalf of myself and the schools. We're in a better place because of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
All right, great.
all right.
Thank you.
So that's our electric bus approval, and we'll move on to a transportation update. And we'll get a nice transition to bus parking and bus depots and where we sit with that. I'll turn it over to you, Miss Owen.
Sure, so, bus parking status update. Currently, as we all know, we're parking, on 3A, it's a month-to-month lease. Right now, we have some engineers looking at the land and, working on getting in front of the Conservation Commission for the potential of putting them in front of Deer Hill.
Which that had been presented to committee a while back.
It's been ongoing. Right now, they have to go in there, from what I'm told, the engineers have to get in there and drill holes, and they cannot do that when school's in session. So, once they do that, it will go before the Conservation Commission to see if it's even something that's doable. So that's kind of a holding pattern right now. Other than that, we've exhausted every avenue of where we can park. I know there was a mention of MBTA, which I did talk to Michelle Leary about. But that also came with cost. It wasn't free. And our concerns were, it's kind of off the beaten path. It's not visible. You know, is it safe for our drivers to be parking buses in and out of there from field trips at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night? There are no facilities for them to use either.
And there was nothing definitive about the actual offer, right?
No, there was this, I believe, what I was told, that they were having discussions.
Yeah.
Those discussions still ongoing.
I don't believe so. More so probably because when I had the discussion with Michelle Leary, the assistant town administrator, I told her that I was a little leery on going in that direction because I didn't feel it was any, other than finance, it was not any better than what we already had. I found it to be worse because there was no facilities for the drivers, for safety reasons and visibility, vandalism, it's down there off.
And the backup, just so anybody who's watching at home, this has been basically a 2-year process of not having a place to put the buses that was appropriate to continue our operations.
Right.
And we've tried different ideas. We've had a large study that was done to determine where it could happen in town, and we haven't had any answers that allowed us to put buses anyplace. And we need a place to put the buses. So, this is where we're working. We're doing what we can to figure out a solution.
And Dr. Sullivan, for the record, taxpayers aren't paying it. It's out of the school budget.
It's out of the school budget. but-
It's out of the parents paying.
Yes,
Because
and as we've said
Right,
transparently, we're using a private facility.
right, but it's coming out of the transportation budget that's
Correct.
paid for by the school budget.
Yes.
So I just want folks out there, because I've been reading various people that are saying, oh, we're paying for this. No, you're not. The parents of this community, are paying. Correct?
Yeah, it's coming out of our transportation budget.
So more importantly, it affects more parents than anything else. So it is something that we're working on. And I think we should, should we, it is a 30-day month-to-month lease. Do you guys think it would be, we have June, July, and August that we could store the bus on school property? Do you think that 90 days, we could take a risk and say, hey, we're not going to have that in September. However, we could save $12,500.
It's not worth it.
Okay. So,
No, my,
It's a risk.
my
And
per- my
let me ask you a
personal thought would
question.
be, I don't think he would engage in that.
so let's answer some of the questions that I read. And that's why can't we store them here at the school?
Store them where?
Here at the school.
Well, first of all, in order to store the buses, you couldn't have any student parking. And the whole community would have to realize that. You couldn't have, you'd limit your staff parking. Remember, these are large buses that you to turn in and out. It creates an unsafe situation if you have anyone sharing that lot. It's not a good spot for them to go if you want to continue having a school that has student parking. And I know that's an important thing for our school community. It's just as simple as that. We don't have any space on our facilities that would provide, other than that could even possibly host our 9 or 10 buses, as if you think about it with the electric bus.
Right.
So, and it's got to be a place that's safe. I understand, and I want to be very respectful of any folks who are concerned about any additions to the schoolyards, but we are trying to do a school function on a schoolyard, which is to have school buses on them. So I'd be very willing as superintendent to partner with the town in any way to find space anywhere in the town that will work, but nothing has, and I'm not criticizing, there's been efforts, nothing has come to fruition for us. So right now we're left with the solution we have in place, which has worked for us, but it's not what we want long-term. And I know it's not what the taxpayers and families want. I get that.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying, we did park at DPW for years. DPW had to, they partnered with a different recycling company. So there's different types of recycling bins. So they needed the spaces where we were parking for different type of containers is what we were told. They've also put in a new salt shed. And I believe they're putting another small building for emergency management to store all their stuff that's in the basement at Deer Hill. So that's where we were. And then we were here in the parking lot because we were going to COVID. We weren't going to school. So temporarily, they did sit in this parking lot. But that's when school was not in session. And we've been at the.
And they're also at the
We've
softball,
been at the softball.
at the
We've
base-
been at the
Little
library.
League baseball.
We've talked about
Rockwell.
Wilcox
Yeah.
Wilcox Commons. We've gone through any piece of property. We've been up on Route 3A. I'm not exactly sure logistics. I think the state owns a parking, a piece of land up a really steep.
Yeah, we
hill.
looked at that.
We looked at that
Yeah,
area,
that's
like, so
not-
we've,
that's not-
we've looked everywhere. It's
Yeah,
just.
there's a report, we have a report of everything we've looked at. It just doesn't work.
So if anybody out there has a suggestion, please bring it to us because we'd love to hear it.
So where we are now, though.
Oh, sorry, I might add, so a big discussion that played out in Cohasset social media this week was about our buses. And I think a lot of us got some feedback from that. And this has been so well discussed and so well researched. I was really frankly surprised how much disinformation was out there about this exercise about finding an appropriate place for buses. And so, folks at home that are watching, we could come on in. We're open for ideas,
Absolutely.
And,
We really are.
but I think we have a good temporary solution. We are working through the issues. This is not something that is snuck up on us, and it's a top priority for all of us sitting here in this room. So But I was just very surprised how this issue, who I think is very well discussed, played out, especially this week, and how much information out there was just not correct. And we've done an excellent job explaining ourselves, I think, as we do tonight. And so I hope people that have ideas, we'd love to hear them. I think, come on in and talk about it. You know, we're open to it. I think the lot we use now is a perfectly fine solution until we find a permanent home.
And I'll just add that I think that social media discussion engendered a number of direct communications with the administration and myself as chair of the school committee. And, you know, we're listening to those concerns.
Sure.
What's most helpful is options. I mean, I know there are some concerns about, you know, from local residents about having buses parked near their homes. And, you know, if there are ways we can mitigate those issues, let's talk about that. But for right now, the options we have are limited. But just to be very, very clear with everyone, we're not voting on a plan today. We haven't voted on a plan. The stuff that you see happening in front of Deer Hill is feasibility work. We may not even be able to use that ground. And so before we do anything, we will make sure we have all the options. I think we should close the circle on the MBTA and see what that option looks like financially. I think we need to see what the feasibility of the Deer Hill extension is. And we're open to any other suggestions that people may have on bus locations as things evolve. So this is a work in progress. It's something we need to get done, and we are going to get it done. So, you know, if you feel like your well-being will be adversely impacted by our decision, please engage us and help us come up with solutions that can mitigate that impact. We want to do that. We're willing to do the work to, you know, figure out what that's going to look like. But just as a entity that owns vehicles that have to continue existing throughout the course of a day, we need a place for them to exist during the course of the day. And the one we have now is not a permanent solution. So, so thank you, Ms. Owen. Any other thoughts, comments from the community, or Ray, anything from your end? So,
No, I would love to have a permanent place to put them.
Yep.
Just, you know, helps with the team, you know, the bus staff. It'd be nice to have a place to call home, is all I can say.
And also remember the high school lot is used, there's games, there's activities, there's like there's no time for them to be there except like overnight. And that only gives us a little bit of time. So,
Mr. Chairman, we'll engage, I'm sure, in a very robust discussion when we actually have some concrete plans that we intend to move forward on. But I wanted to add the thought that, you know, in seeing the recent discussion about this, one underlying theme, which I see sometimes from time to time with impactful issues, it's sort of an allegation or an indictment that we're doing something in secret or not adequately advertising something. That is not a valid position. Okay, this committee, first of all, on this particular issue, this is at least the 6th time that I have sat here and talked about this issue. We've had drawings up on that screen. This is anything but, you know, secrecy. So the assertion that we're doing something and engaging in some sort of subterfuge or some sort of nefarious scheme to, you know, deceive our constituents is in absolutely meritless and unwarranted position. We not only have we discussed this a number of times, but on any impactful issue, we will introduce it, and then we'll have a meeting where everyone is invited to come and discuss their various perspectives, and we are able to voice ours, and then we'll have a meeting where we actually decide and implement a solution that we think works for the entire community. So I just, you know, just because someone might have not heard about it themselves doesn't mean we haven't talked about it, and it certainly doesn't mean that we're trying to hide it from anyone. So I wanted to put that out there. It's also, you know, I don't personally, and I don't think members of this committee typically do, engage in serious discussion on social media platforms. So there may be voices that are being or perspectives being expressed through that medium, and you may not see us respond. You know, I will speak for myself personally, not for the committee, but I view that as more appropriate a more appropriate forum to share pictures of nice sunrises or something like that. It's not a forum through which you should engage in any semblance of serious business. So that's why you won't necessarily see responses from us. We will have a deliberate, purposeful, and constructive forum through which the community or concerned constituents or stakeholders will be able to engage in meaningful debate about any impactful issue that they feel is having any sort of direct impact on them. And that's the one takeaway, that's the one issue I had with this. I know we're not even deciding this right now, but that is something that every time I see it, I'll call it out because we are transparent. And I think that was I think it's justified or warranted anyway to say something like that right now. So thank you.
You do have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have any public comment?
It's,
I'm just waiting for the person to give us their name and their
yeah,
full name and address.
individual name Mike C, but we don't have a full name or address.
Well, I might also mention, I think out of respect for the open meeting law, we shouldn't engage in conversations online like that. I don't think we actually can.
Yeah.
As many of us are all on the same site, and as soon as that, I think it goes down a slippery slope.
I think the point is that we read it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna respond.
No.
And I give us credit for reading.
Yeah.
I would never respond.
Yeah, let me take a
Especially
look. Let's
that-
see if we can fit anybody else in.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome to come on
to
up.
Craig's point, I mean, it's transparent, that everybody's welcome to come in here and share their ideas. You know, there's been so many times that we've taken advice from the public and we love to hear how we can.
So we have,
If the person hasn't given us their name, their full name or address.
Yeah, I think we should stay with that. It's a legitimate question, but I don't think we should answer it because we don't.
I have a feeling I know who it is.
Well, why don't we just say, Mike C, you've made a comment. We want to address
did
it. Can you please what?
We just did that, yeah.
Yeah, I responded.
You sent
to
them
him.
a-
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but you can
Okay,
ask
great.
them in
Can you
public too.
please just state your full name and your address because we have to have that for the meeting
Right,
record.
maybe here it is.
And then we can read your question.
I have his
because we
name. We
want
still
to
need
go.
we still need your address. Ah, there it is. All right,
Perfect, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. It's Mike Crowell. And it's 175 Sawyer Street. And the question is, can we get a copy of the study?
So study was done by Glenn Pratt, who's our emergency management. Glenn did an amazing job through COVID and really has spearheaded trying to find bus parking for us. Sue, I think it's a public document, right?
Yeah,
The study is an internal document? I don't know what it is.
It was something that he put together showing just providing documentation of every step he took and who he talked to and the reasons why it wasn't,
Does it exist somewhere that we can share?
It exists, yeah. I mean, I
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah.
So yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
So,
we will share it.
yes.
I'd like to share it. I don't have a reason not to share
It's
it.
actually a great
Of course,
study.
though, it's though it's not a binding document, it's not something that
No.
we're necessarily,
But it's-
governing ourselves by, but it's something that
It's
is certainly
It does,
input.
it's a short.
Yeah, I guess the word study was strong. It's exactly what you said. It's a step-by-step account of everything that was done to try to find parking and the reasons we were given why the parking wasn't available.
And
I
just to
recall
reiterate
seeing
what
this.
Chairman Dial said, it's not, this isn't, we haven't sorted this out as, identified this as the only final solution. It's something that seems quite appealing and reasonable and sensible. But, it's so I think people might feel that we've arrived after looking at all these other options, this is the only option. It's a really good one, we feel currently, but there's still questions. to
I can
be
share it
answered.
in my newsletter.
So,
Yeah, why not?
exactly, yeah, and there's
Yeah.
that picture we've had up here a couple
Yeah,
times that's
let's-
evolved as well.
Any problem with that?
Plans.
Everyone just needs to not worry, it's nothing is happening immediately, and believe me, when I say that construction projects in this town are very slow. So you can rest assured, you will be well aware when this is happening.
Yeah, all options remain on the table, so we welcome.
And really can't emphasize enough that we're looking for options. We really are looking for, we've thought of a lot of ideas and none of them have landed.
And remember, so long as our buses aren't parked on district property, it could, theoretically, the rug could be pulled out from underneath us. Even if they developed it with the intention of having the school buses parked there, okay, the town can decide, nope, that department needs it now, and you need to find a different place for the school buses. And I know that because it happened, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. So as long as we don't have the buses on district property, that's what can happen. So that's why district property is a very appealing solution. But we're far from deciding.
Any other
We have
comments?
another comment from Mr. Caldwell. It's Dr. Sullivan just made a point about why buses cannot exist at high school because of the creation of an unsafe environment. How does that not apply to DSL?
Well, because, well, we're not competing with anybody.
Student drivers.
For
Right.
student drivers
Makes sense.
parking.
Right.
There,
Makes
it's
sense.
off to the side, and it actually would add potentially more parking if you think about for events, because there'd be a few, maybe extra spots there.
Right, but that's what we
Yes.
talked about. Yeah,
And
some staff parking.
Ray, what time do the buses leave? Like, let's say that they're parked somewhere, the routes begin, what time do they leave?
Around 7:30 in the morning.
7:30. So I think, that would be the change, 7:30 they leave from Deer Hill instead of leaving from the lot they're on now.
Mm-hmm.
And at 7:30, there's no children at the school. And what time do they come back?
9:30. By
9:30.
that time, the kids are all at school.
Kids are all in. And then they leave again while the kids are all at school.
Right.
And they come back and their
Yep.
job is to deliver the kids all home. So,
And there's nobody parking there.
and then
Remember,
as in contrast to the high school where you're going to have
Parking
buses moving in and out at these times when people are coming into events.
Yeah.
Kids are, driving themselves.
you can't manipulate those buses in that parking lot without having the parking lot clear to be safe.
Exactly. They take a lot of room to turn.
So, but the point of safety is something that we do need to think about and will think about, and we appreciate you bringing it up here. So,
Thank you.
any other public comments?
Just said thank you.
You're very well. Hearing none, no others, we'll move on to plans for next year's bus service. So,
Oh, so I did invite Ray because he's got a plan that he's very confident with.
Yep. If I wasn't wishing the summer away, I'd be willing to start the school year tomorrow. So,
fantastic.
yeah, we're in great shape for the start of the school year.
So we
Can't be
have,
happy with that.
That in itself is an amazing.
Huge
statement,
effort.
Right.
because that,
I'm
we haven't been able to say that.
unbelievably pleased with the way we said was the time, well, end of August now.
so we have eight routes.
We have 8 routes.
And 2 of them right now are with First Student. But we have 2 drivers ready to start September. So that would replace the 2 First Student.
For the start of the school year, we're gonna have 9 bus drivers for 8 routes. That would give us a backup for a case of a call out. A bus driver for sports events. And we are training 2 more in the event of retirements, whatever.
And that doesn't include Ray.
That does.
Right, no, that
That does not
will
include
not
Ray at all.
include me having to drive.
So then we would have 2, if we count Ray as a backup driver.
Oh, so you're not gonna be driving a route anymore.
Right, but I'll have to go out and see my
That-
kids.
the families
because
won't
they
like that.
expect-
Yeah,
no,
you're
they-
very
they
fond
need
of
to-
that.
You're gonna see
But that was,
They need
that's,
to
that's
see
how,
that.
that's how his position is drawn up. So he supervised, yeah. It's harder to do when you're driving.
It is, definitely. But it gives me a chance to see my kids and.
That's true. I know they like
We
you.
do
and
like
you
to see the
him, I'm sure.
kids, but no, we are in phenomenal shape for the start of the school year.
So that's on robustness. One of the other common, I don't call it complaints, but common comments about the buses is then the bus routes have been long. Are we able to do anything with this newer buses to help shorten those bus routes?
Yes, the bus routes next year, well, at the start of this school year, every bus was close to capacity. Next school year, we will drop that number from 77 to 64 kids per bus. The longest bus route will be 35, 40 minutes long,
And is that because we have fewer kids or is it because we added the bus?
because we added the extra route.
Excellent. So we had 7 routes this year. We'll have 8 routes next year.
And that goes back to your comment earlier about the influx of students at the Osgood. I mean, and if the, school continues to grow, there may be a need to add a 9th route.
We'll have a new electric bus.
Well, But, yeah,
That's excellent.
start
You have a
school
question?
small, we're good.
All right. Before we go to the public, any questions, comments from the committee?
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's go to public forum.
Sure. This is from Megan Berry, 11 Tab Lane. Will there be outsourced bus drivers and buses next year?
No need for them.
Not our intention at this point.
Correct.
Great. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's no other questions, comments from the committee. I'll thank you on behalf of the committee. You are a celebrity around town. The kids love you and you weathered a difficult storm and we owe you our heartfelt thanks. So
I'm looking forward, like I said, to the next school year. I think it's gonna be the best one yet.
There were a few storms, I'd say.
Yeah.
Great job, Ray. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Um,
Have a nice night.
Next agenda item is a report from our school facilities committee. I don't know if we have anything to report from the.
No
school
report.
committee.
Well, with school facilities,
Yes.
we're meeting with the end of the month. And we also have a tour.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have that set up by the end of the week.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to,
And just FYI, I think we serve on that committee together, right? So that's, all the school committee members are invited to. for that
I mean, it's a bit out of I'm not giving the tour, so I have to really, I ask a favor here for them to do it, but.
So we're trying to get-
So I have to really work on the timeline, but I'm hoping to have you with the timeline.
Great. Any reports from our school committees, subcommittees and liaisons? And Ms. Leskey, for your benefit, we will be at one of the upcoming meetings reorganizing our school committee, voting for different positions. And at that point, we also appoint people to various subcommittees. And this is the agenda item for those subcommittees to reports. Any reports from subcommittees?
High school has a school committee meeting coming up next week.
Yep, so we're in that together.
Yep, and select boards. Stay.
And also too, is we had a nutrition, food service committee meeting, Craig and I, this week, which was it was about an hour or so, and we went over what all the new plans are for the food services. We're already starting to see some really good specials and how we can bring it into the curriculum so they can learn about making great food choices at an early stage. And also too is we're looking at the product that's being in right now. The product is pretty much wrapping up to the end of the year. So going forward, we're trying to see what we can do as far as where do we buy the food? How can we buy more local products there? So a lot of that. We also mentioned the vending machine, which we're trying to get more healthier snacks in. And then some of the food service challenges that we have at the elementary schools being where they don't really have kitchens. We kind of talked about that. So it was a really good, productive meeting. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been pretty helpful. I still have, high hopes for tangible progress at the elementary school, which I think that they're getting to, and they're starting with the taste testing that that someone just spoke of. Maybe it was in your update, Dr. Sullivan. They're rolling that out, and I think that the intention there is to determine, what the elementary level kids like, what options they'll actually select. 'Cause it's a lot different when you're dealing with older kids. Their palates are a little bit more extensive than say elementary kids that maybe tend to be a little bit more picky, so they don't want to have an array of options that kids will never pick. So I think they're doing a little bit of research there, and they're being deliberate. They don't work over the summer, so I think that it sounds like a realistic rollout of some real palpable differences in while there's some that you saw Ms. St. Ange comment about one of the options recently. I think there's been some immediate improvement, but it's been limited. So I think that we'll see, we can expect to see, it sounded like from that meeting, by at least October, some more palpable, tangible progress, which is great, which wouldn't even been possible if we hadn't hired the assistant director now. But just to the elementary parents out there, rest assured that, we will see some more robust food service offerings in the elementary schools, because I think a lot of us are seeing a lot of the pictures from the middle and high school right now. And even my daughter commented that they have some of the screens in there show pictures of different like menu items and some of it is from the middle high school. So she's like, they kind of like flaunt what we don't have in front of us. And, but I think that they'll start seeing, maybe they should view it as more of a preview of what they will have.
Yeah.
So I think there's been some progress there, and I thank the Food Services Department for their willingness to embrace this change, which I think is necessary. So, and I think Mr. Kearney would agree.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and we thank everyone for
There's
that.
definitely been made a lot of progress, and I'm really excited about next year because it just keeps getting better and better.
Should.
Starting to see it around the schools, so. That is.
Thank you, Mr. Ken.
Yeah, we're also looking to do a finance meeting coming up to discuss the upcoming budget, but also to
Yeah, there's something else we had on the thing. We're
yeah,
gonna have a meeting.
yeah. So we got a meeting.
Love it.
We realized we needed to do something, talk about something. I came up and said exactly what it is at this very moment. So
Oh, I would like to talk about too is what, is when we bring up the fitness center too, like, what are the hours, who can use it, what is availability? Because I know a lot of police officers use it. When are the teachers going to use it? So should be some kind of a rollout plan of who can use it and when they can use it. So that's something I did want to bring up.
Great. All right, there are no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I do have a question. We do have a set of minutes to approve. And I'm gonna, I'll just ask the question of the thing. The set of minutes is from a 5/12 meeting that had a quorum, including our former committee member, Ms. St. Ange. And so what that leaves is only 2 of the 5 sitting members of this committee can vote to approve those minutes, which is less than a majority of the quorum. But do abstentions count against the vote, or can we pass it with a vote of 2-0?
Pass it with 2.
Okay.
Because you can't do it otherwise.
Yes. So with that, we have a set of minutes to approve. A few of my comments, the only committee members who can vote on these who were present at the meeting are me and Mr. Kearney. So Mr. Kearney, the minutes are in your packet.
So
Have you
moved.
got a chance? I entertain a motion to move. I will second the motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All abstain?
Aye.
No opposed? The motion carries 2-0. We have approved this set of very extensive minutes, which we're only meeting to approve minutes, ironically. Now at this point, I'll ask if there are any thoughts on future agenda items we should consider for future meetings.
I have one. Can we have Dr. Scollins present at some point where she had, maybe she's already planning on doing this. I'm talking about you like you're not sitting there.
Where's that stuff?
Can we get another update on the literacy, the ELA curriculum and how that's going? Like after you've had a meaningful time to digest, sort of like after year's end, like how things have gone, like maybe even like in August or something like that, to give you a wide berth there. Just again, because the way we had sort of rolled that out, I want to make sure we're constantly monitoring it. And it is a creative solution. So I
So where
think
we
there's
are,
a lot of
where we are,
anxiety.
where we're going.
Where we are, where we're
Yeah.
going, how it's,
And then
how
what
it,
it'll
how
look
it's
like.
going, what, if we can share some data, right? Yeah, we just did it. We just did it not too long ago.
Yeah.
We did one. If we can do another one, that takes the whole year, of that new curriculum having been rolled out into consideration and providing parents with some information about that. And then anything that we've learned and maybe changes that we might implement. Because as you know, there's some anxiety associated with that curriculum. So I just want to be responsive to that and, sensitive to that. So if you could do that, maybe I'm suggesting, Mr. Chambers, it's up to you, but I'm suggesting presuming that you're still the chair.
It may not be.
There may be some sort of.
But it's idea generation, so it's a future agenda. item
Ouster.
idea.
But
Ooh.
in August, I'm thinking.
So any other thoughts for future agenda? Mr. Carr?
it would be great to maybe just do a little after action about our budget process last year. I think we did a great budget process, but we can always learn from our prior experience and maybe think about maybe how to do it a little bit differently. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know, really, no significant issue there, but I think
Well, I agree
the
with,
future, I think, is something we might think about.
And I think there's opportunity based on our last budget process to
Yeah.
streamline some of our engagements with our fellow committees like
Yes.
capital and advisory, so that they more efficiently get the information they need and we more efficiently use our time. I think that's.
Number one thought, I thought we did a great job of, I learned a lot by watching, so.
So appreciate that. Any other thoughts? All right, there is no reason to move into executive session. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion made by Chairman, Vice Chairman Cohen. Was that a second from Mr. Kearney?
That was very quick.
Second from Mr. Kearney, all in favor? All opposed? All right, the meeting of the Cohasset School Committee is officially adjourned. Thank you all very much for your time and your help.
you, right? First one under the belt.